Chapter 181. At this moment, Lung Shiqi waved his spirit saber, sending out hundreds of saber shadows that shrouded the two spirit transformation realm disciples of the academy. Both of them were at the middle stage of the spirit transformation realm, but he still had the upper hand. Lung Shiqi didn't even use his full strength. In his spare time he observed the situation of the others. First it was Feng Shamo. Feng Shamo and the old man of Mountain of Books were both masters of the spirit gang realm. The power of their attacks was simply terrifying. The gate of the academy had already been destroyed by them, and no one dared to approach within a radius of several hundred feet around them. Lung Shiqi had never seen a fight between spirit gang realm cultivators, so he couldn't understand what was going on. Feng Shamo and the old man of Mountain of Books attacked so fast that Lung Shiqi couldn't even see how they attacked. He could only see the cyan saber light and the black shadow of the palm from a distance. In fact, the old man of Mountain of Books was the most surprised of all. He clearly knew that Feng Shamo had just entered the spirit gang realm and hadn't even fully condensed his spirit gang. To be precise, Feng Shamo wasn't at the first level of the spirit gang realm. As for himself, he had entered the spirit gang realm more than 10 years ago and was now at the third level of the spirit gang realm. However, he was evenly matched with Feng Shamo. Although the old man of Mountain of Books admitted that his chi and blood had begun to decline and was no longer at his peak, it shouldn't be this bad. He couldn't help but feel a little unwilling. This was the huge gap between a rogue cultivator and a disciple of a big sect. Then Lung Shiqi looked at the place where xianxia and the others were fighting. Whether it was xianxia or Duan Jiming, they were completely suppressed by Duya and Bati. As for those below the spirit pulse realm, it was a massacre. Lung Shiqi analyzed the situation and found that the most important thing was not Feng Shamo. The battle between Feng Shamo and the old man of Mountain of Books wouldn't end in a short time, and others couldn't interfere. Although they had the upper hand, xianxia and Duan Jiming had been in charge of the Golden Wing Academy for so many years, so they must have some trump cards. They didn't dare to kill too much for fear that they would die together. The key point was the remaining black-striped blood-clothed assassins and black-clothed assassins. As long as they quickly dealt with the low-level disciples of the academy, they would be able to come back and assist in the battle between the Spirit Vein Realm cultivators. As long as they killed a few Spirit Vein Realm cultivators, they would be able to surround and kill xianxia and Duan Jiming. As long as the two of them died, the mission would be completed. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi stopped playing with the two people in front of him. Suddenly, a dark magic pattern appeared on his body. The magic pattern moved and attached to his spirit saber. He had enhanced the power of the spirit saber with the devil veins. Then he used the floating spirit steps and moved like a ghost. With a few moves, he easily killed two disciples of the academy at the spirit transformation realm. Then he killed his way into the crowd. There were also a few blood-red assassins here. Soon, all of the spirit transformation realm disciples were slaughtered. Thus, the few blood-clothed assassins immediately surrounded the spirit pulse stage cultivators of the academy, while the rest of the black-clothed assassins chased after the pure spirit stage and spirit assembly stage disciples like wolves in a flock of sheep. The entire battle immediately leaned towards the blood-robe pavilion. xianxia realized that if this continued, they would definitely be exterminated. Thus he shouted, "Run! Run as far as you can." Since even the dean had said so, many people immediately tried to escape. However, there were even more assassins who chased after them. Moreover, wherever the fleeing people passed, they would not give way to the onlookers. In the end, they would still be killed by the assassins. It was not that they were unwilling to give way, but they did not dare to. Once they gave way, if they were killed by the Blood Robe Pavilion's assassins, how could they reason with them? When xianxia saw his disciples being slaughtered and his so-called friends not even giving way, his face was filled with grief and indignation. He immediately swallowed a pitch-black pill. The aura of his body began to surge, reaching the peak of the spirit aperture realm. Duya was suppressed in an instant, but he still mocked, "Dean, he has always been noble and virtuous. In the end, you actually used the methods of a demonic cultivator to fight against the enemy. How laughable." xianxia's face was already distorted beyond recognition. He only wanted to kill Duya now. He exerted his cultivation of the peak of the spirit aperture realm to the extreme and used the Golden Wing Academy's unique skill, the Golden Wing Heaven-breaking hand. Both of his arms turned golden, and several crystal-clear spirit veins and spirit apertures appeared on his arms. His hands flew and hundreds of hand shadows submerged Duya. Duya used a dagger that looked like the teeth of a demonic beast. Facing xianxia's fierce moves, he could only retreat. He also knew that xianxia could not maintain this state for a long time. As long as he could drag it out, it would be fine. At this time, Lung Shiqi caught up with a pure spirit realm disciple who was running away and killed him without any suspense. Then he looked around. In this short period of time, most of the low-level disciples of the academy had been killed. There were also some black-clothed assassins who went to besiege the spirit vein realm cultivators of the academy. Just as Lung Shiqi was about to go to help, 6 people jumped into the academy. One of them shouted, "Stop!" As soon as he finished speaking, he was stopped by the young girl next to him. She whispered, "Don't make trouble. This is not a place where we can intervene." The assassins of the Blood Cloak Pavilion ignored the young man's words and were still chasing the disciples of the academy. Lung Shiqi leisurely looked at the 6 people, 5 men and 1 woman. They were all in their 20s, but their cultivation was not low. The 5 youths were all in the spirit transformation realm. Some were in the middle stage and some were in the late stage. The most powerful one was the girl. She was actually in the spirit vein realm. Looking at her appearance, she was only in her 20s, but she had the cultivation of the spirit vein realm. It could be seen that her identity was not simple. The girl immediately raised her voice and said, "I am Tang Wanxiu, a member of the Tang family of Donglin County. I have no intention of interfering in your affairs." After she finished speaking, the young man who was stopped by her was unhappy and said, "Cousin, the people of the Blood Cloak Pavilion seriously injured Uncle some time ago. How can we stand by and do nothing? Let me go up and teach them a lesson." Tang Hapu, shut up. Tang Wanxiu shouted. "You, a concubine's daughter, dare to speak to me like this? So what if your cultivation is high? In the future I will inherit." Before Tang Hapu could finish his words, Tang Wanxiu covered his mouth. However, the young man's voice was heard by Feng Shamo. His mouth moved, and his voice clearly spread to every corner of the academy. "The Tang family is so powerful. Disciples of the Blood Cloak Pavilion, listen up. Whoever kills a disciple of the Tang family will receive double the reward for this mission. Whoever kills Tang Wanxiu or Tang Hapu will receive 10 times the reward." Lung Shiqi immediately grasped the hilt of his saber. Chapter 182. Tang Wanxiu was the daughter of a concubine of the Tang family in Donglin County, but her cultivation talent was extremely high. Previously, she was ranked 2nd in the Tang family, second only to Tang Heyu. After Tang Heyu was assassinated by Bing Shang, Tang Wanxiu was pushed out to be the face of the Tang family. A large amount of resources were poured into her, but her cultivation was still stuck at the peak of the spirit transformation realm. For the sake of the Tang family's reputation, the upper echelons of the Tang family actually used external items to forcefully help Tang Wanxiu break through to the spirit vein realm. This was equivalent to destroying her cultivation future. However, the upper echelons of the Tang family didn't care. As long as Tang Wanxiu could support the Tang family for a period of time, they would nurture an even younger generation. For example, Tang Hapu. Tang Hapu was the son of the Tang family's patriarch. He was only 14 years old this year, but his cultivation was already at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. This cultivation speed was even faster than the genius disciples of the Mountain Sea sect. He was the only direct descendant of the Tang family's younger generation. In the future, the position of patriarch would very likely fall on him. The youth's success made Tang Hapu a little complacent. If he was a little arrogant in the Tang family, it would be fine, but now that he was outside and still looked down on everyone, it was a little stupid. This time, the Tang family had asked Tang Wanxiu to bring Tang Hapu out to travel specifically for others to see. Look, although the Tang family has lost Tang Heyu, they still have Tang Wanxiu and Tang Hapu. The Tang family doesn't lack geniuses. After they came out, they heard that the Golden Wing Academy was going to hold a discussion and that there would definitely be a large number of spirit cultivators gathered. It was also a good opportunity for them to show their faces, so they rushed over. However, on the way, Tang Hapu saw a lot of injustice and insisted on helping out. They were delayed for a while, so they were late. When Tang Wanxiu saw that the Blood Robe Pavilion was actually washing the Golden Wing Academy with blood, she was glad that they were late. However, she didn't expect that Tang Hapu would actually help out again. Previously, people were afraid of the Tang family and didn't bother with Tang Hapu, which made him even more arrogant. Now he didn't even put the Blood Robe Pavilion in his eyes. Thus the scene just now appeared. After Tang Wanxiu heard Feng Shamo's words, her pretty face became gloomy. She couldn't believe that the Blood Robe Pavilion would attack them. However, not many of the assassins from the Blood Robe Pavilion came over. The blood-clothed assassins were currently surrounding and killing the Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators of the Golden Wing Academy. The black-clothed assassins were no match for Tang Wanqiu. In the end, only two figures rushed over. These two were Bing Shang and Leng Shiqi. Bing Shang came directly in front of Tang Wanqiu. Her body emitted a faint chill as she looked at her coldly. When Tang Wanqiu saw Bing Shang, she immediately recognized him. She said in a deep voice, "You are Bing Shang, the assassin who killed Tang Heyu." Bing Shang's voice was as cold as ice. "That's right. Tang Heyu died at my hands. You will die the same way." Then Bing Shang clenched his fists, and cold air quickly condensed into a ferocious ice fist. Tang Wanqiu exclaimed, "Spirit caster?" It wasn't just him, even Leng Shiqi couldn't help but look at Bing Shang a few more times. He had come here purely for the 10 times the reward that Feng Xiaomo had mentioned. Since Bing Shang had targeted Tang Wanqiu, Leng Shiqi naturally went for Tang Hepu. However, when he rushed over, he saw Bing Shang make a move. He had never seen Bing Shang make a move before, so he didn't know that he was a spirit caster. When Leng Shiqi saw Bing Shang's method of condensing ice into a weapon, his heart moved. He thought to himself, he might not be a pure spirit caster. Maybe he's like me, using spirit techniques as a support method. As expected, Bing Shang immediately charged forward and started fighting with Tang Wanqiu. Tang Wanqiu used a sword and her sword techniques were exquisite. However, Bing Shang's methods were even more peculiar and strange. You didn't know when he would use spirit techniques, making it impossible to guard against. Leng Shiqi watched their battle and realized something. At this time, Tang Hepu's voice sounded. "You, a small black-clothed assassin, dare to kill me? You dare to ignore me? You don't know life from death." Leng Shiqi withdrew his gaze and looked at Tang Hepu. He also didn't understand. They were both raised by the Tang family, but Tang Hepu's temperament was much worse than Tang Wanqiu's. If it wasn't for him shouting, how could Feng Xiaomo have noticed them? Leng Shiqi didn't think too much about this. What he needed to do now was to kill Tang Hepu. Not only did he want the 10 times reward, but he also wanted to take revenge for Tang Haoqing's punch. Seeing Leng Shiqi walk over with killing intent, the 4 spirit transformation realm guards beside Tang Hepu all stood before him. Leng Shiqi pulled out his spirit sword. In a situation where he was outnumbered, it was more appropriate to use a sword technique. With a shake of his spirit sword, 5 streaks of invisible sword chi surged out in succession. Tang Hepu revealed a look of disdain when facing the invisible sword energies. He took out a light green longsword from his mustard seed bag. This longsword seemed to be made from a piece of jade. Tang Hepu gently waved the longsword in his hand and easily shattered the unblocking meridian sword energies. As for the other 4 people, they also used their own methods and weren't hit by the unblocking meridian sword energies. However, when they looked over, Leng Shiqi was nowhere to be seen. One of the 4 guards suddenly felt a chill behind him. He quickly turned around and saw a ray of sword energy stabbing toward him. The man immediately turned pale with fright and shouted, "Save me!" Only then did the others react and quickly block. However, just as Leng Shiqi's sword energy was about to reach them, Tang Hepu arrived first. The jade sword in Tang Hepu's hand released a gentle light, but it made Leng Shiqi feel a sense of danger. Leng Shiqi's mind moved and 7 demonic patterns climbed onto the body of the spirit sword. He still stabbed at Tang Hepu. The 2 swords collided and the sound of metal clashing echoed. There was even the sound of something breaking. Leng Shiqi's pupils dilated slightly because an obvious crack had appeared on his spirit sword. The spirit sword in his hand was a level 3 spirit sword strengthened by an enhancement talisman on Blood Mist Island. It could be said that it had been with Leng Shiqi for a long time and had been through hundreds of battles. It was already a little damaged. However, he had specially added 7 demonic patterns just now. Even so, it was almost destroyed. Leng Shiqi glanced at Tang Hepu's jade sword and thought, that sword is at least a level 4 spirit sword. It's even better than my scimitar. When Tang Hepu saw Leng Shiqi's spirit sword crack, he grinned and said, "In front of my jade sword, you dare to use that piece of scrap metal to kill me? You dare to provoke me? Let's kill him together." The other 4 people immediately besieged Leng Shiqi. A black fog rose under Leng Shiqi's feet, and he used spirit steps to dodge the attacks. He said indifferently, "I want this sword." Chapter 183. Speaking of which, Leng Shiqi could no longer fully display his strength with a level 3 spirit sword. This was also the reason why he often used the sword. Originally, he had planned to earn some spirit stones and blood droplets to exchange for a tier 4 spirit sword. Now, Tang Hepu had delivered a spirit sword to him in the blink of an eye. It was as if someone had delivered a pillow to him just when he was about to doze off. Lung Shiqi's left palm lit up with a faint starlight, then a burst of cold air surged under his feet and spread out. I spread. The turbulent cold air enveloped Tang Hepu and the others. The cold air formed a layer of ice crystals on their bodies. Only Tang Hepu's jade spirit chi made the cold air unable to gather. However, this was enough. In the next moment, Lung Shiqi pointed his spiritual sword, and suddenly 12 phantoms appeared. Each of the phantoms used a different sword style, and each of them had a different sword chi which dazzled the eyes. In an instant the sword light flashed and the sword chi was everywhere. Tang Hepu's expression finally changed at this time. The jade sword in his hand spun and formed a sword curtain in front of him. After 2 breaths, all the phantoms disappeared and Lung Shiqi's figure appeared behind the 5 people. Among the 5 people, 3 people fell to the ground with a plop, and never got up again. The remaining 2 people were Tang Hepu and the person standing next to him. Tang Hepu's forehead had unknowingly exuded layers of cold sweat. Just now he really felt the arrival of death. If his jade sword was not level 4 upper grade and blocked all the sword light and sword chi, he would not be far from death. However, Lung Shiqi would not give them time to breathe. He put away his sword and a purple light bloomed on the blade. Tang Hepu felt the killing intent coming from behind him and hurriedly crushed a jade pendant on his waist. At the same time, Lung Shiqi also waved out a destructive half-moon purple light. It was so dazzling in the clear sky. The purple moon blade light cut through the sky and slashed towards Tang Hemu. After Tang Hemu crushed the jade pendant projected a faint silhouette. The figure was very blurry and looked like an old man, but the aura emitted by the figure made Lung Shiqi tremble. And the figure seemed to have a real consciousness. When he saw Lung Shiqi waving the purple moon blade, he immediately shouted, "Who dares to touch my Tang family? How dare you?" Under the shadow's roar, Lung Shiqi's saber light started to twist, and the sharpness of the saber light dissipated a little. Lung Shiqi was shocked, but he did not back down and still held his blade. The shadow stretched out a finger and pointed lightly. A light blue finger force shot out and shattered Lung Shiqi's half-moon rapid light slash. What was even more frightening was that the finger did not stop and continued to shoot towards Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi's body moved continuously, and he had to shift a few times before he was able to dodge the finger force. The finger force hit a rockery behind him, and in an instant the rockery shattered into pieces. That finger energy had such terrifying power. However, Lung Shiqi also noticed that after shooting that finger energy the figure became fainter. Tang Hepu took the opportunity to run, and his speed was not slow. Of course, Lung Shiqi could not let Tang Hepu escape. He directly sank into the ground and wanted to go around the figure to chase after Tang Hepu. But what he didn't expect was that the shadow lightly pointed again, and a finger force that was even thicker than the previous one penetrated the ground and shot towards Lung Shiqi without any delay. Lung Shiqi did not expect his aura to be locked. At this time he was underground and could not use spirit steps, putting himself in danger. He could only use the hand of the earth to harden the soil, but the effect was minimal. At the same time he took out his 3-part spear and charged towards the finger energy. With a muffled explosion, Lung Shiqi's figure broke out of the ground. His entire body was covered in a layer of silver-white soft armor, but his right arm was dripping with blood. At the most critical moment, he activated the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's armor and sacrificed his 3-part spear to escape. Lung Shiqi returned to the ground and the figure finally disappeared. His eyes focused as he stared at Tang Hepu who had already run away. Then a ball of demonic energy appeared in Lung Shiqi's left hand, and the demonic energy quickly condensed into 2 throwing knives. This was the first move of the demonic weapon manual, demonic weapon condensation. If this move was cultivated to perfection, it could condense a demonic weapon that was as sharp as a level 3 spiritual weapon. Of course it was only very sharp. The demonic weapon condensed did not have the corresponding hardness and could only be used to attack. But even so, it was already very powerful, especially for Lung Shiqi. He had a level 3 spiritual skill, devouring light throwing knives, but throwing knives and hidden weapons were very rare, and he had to spend spiritual stones to buy them. Now that he had the demonic weapon manual, he could make up for this. Lung Shiqi quickly condensed 2 throwing knives with his demonic energy. Then, with a shake of his wrist, the throwing knives immediately shot out. Along the way, the throwing knives continued to absorb the surrounding spirit energy, and even the light was sucked in, becoming as dark as ink. Tang Hepu also heard the sound behind him. Although he was panicking, he did not dare to turn around. At this time he could only shout to Tang Wanxiu, "Save me! Save me!" Unfortunately, Tang Wanqiu's cultivation was forcefully broken through by external forces, and she did not have much battle experience. She had always been suppressed by Bing Shang. She could not even protect herself, so how could she care about him? As for the other Tang family disciple, even if he wanted to save him, it was too late. After the devouring light-throwing knives shot out, Lung Shiqi also used floating spirit steps to the extreme, quickly rushing towards Tang Hepu. Seeing that no one was coming to save him, Tang Hepu gritted his teeth and forced out a few drops of essence blood from his fingertips. Essence blood was the most important blood in a spirit cultivator's body. Generally speaking, the amount of essence blood was related to the strength of a spirit cultivator's body. Essence blood was extremely important, and once it was lost, it would be very difficult to make up for it. Right now, Tang Hepu was at his wit's end, and could only use his essence blood to fight for his life. His essence blood dripped onto the unadorned jade sword, and the originally jade-colored sword instantly turned blood red. Tang Hepu suddenly turned around with the blood-red sword in his hand. Following that, several blood-red sword auras fell, breaking the two devouring light-throwing knives. However, Tang Hepu was not feeling well either. At this moment, his face was pale without a trace of blood, and he was panting heavily, as if the few things just now had exhausted his blood and spirit energy. What was even more terrifying was that although he broke the devouring light-throwing knives, Lung Shiqi was coming at him again. Lung Shiqi's figure was as fast as the wind, and was only a few steps slower than the devouring light-throwing knives. From afar, his left hand turned into a pitch-black ghost claw. It was the ghost jade claw that he had not used in a long time. Following that, he opened his 5 claws and demonic chi appeared around him. Demonic chi and baleful chi all gathered on his ghost claw, forming a 5-meter-tall ghost claw image. 4th level spirit technique, Earth Fiend Demon Shadow Claw. The ghost claw tore through the air, bringing with it an ear-piercing sound. Tang Hepu still wanted to struggle, but just as the Earth Fiend Demon Shadow Claw approached, a wave of baleful chi entered his body. His brain was invaded by the baleful chi, and he immediately became delirious, unable to use any techniques. The demon claw descended, and suddenly blood spurted out, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Lung Shiqi caught the jade sword with his right hand and pulled off the mustard seed bag on Tang Hepu's body, and muttered, "I already said this sword, I want it." Chapter 184. Tang Hepu had been killed by Lung Shiqi in a short period of time. Even after using his trump card, he was still killed. This scene naturally fell into the eyes of all the cultivators who had come to participate in the discussion. Originally, they thought that the Blood Cloth Pavilion would not make a move against the Tang family. However, not only did they make a move, but the Tang family's direct descendant, Tang Hepu, had also been killed. Some people in the crowd also recognized the figure that had appeared. It was the current head of the Tang family, Tang Haoquang, an expert at the Unity of Heaven realm. No one knew what method Tang Haoquang had used to attach a portion of his spirit force to the jade pendant. The power of his 2 fingers was comparable to the strongest attack of an early-stage spirit pulse realm cultivator. Even so, Tang Hepu had still been killed by a black-clothed assassin. This caused everyone to be stunned. If it had been the blood-cloth assassin who had killed Tang Hepu, it would have been fine, but it was only a black-clothed assassin at the spirit transformation realm. Moreover, in terms of cultivation, the black-clothed assassin and Tang Hepu were both at the 7th layer of the spirit transformation realm, but the difference in their combat strength was like heaven and earth. In addition, the black-clothed assassin's spirit techniques were more exquisite than the last. Not only was he proficient in sword techniques, blade techniques, and ghost claws, but he was also proficient in hidden weapons. He had even cultivated spirit techniques. This was not what shocked them the most. What shocked them the most was that the black-clothed assassin had actually dared to kill Tang Hepu. Moreover, he had used such a cruel method to leave him without a complete corpse. There were many people here who could kill Tang Hepu, but even if Tang Hepu was standing there with his head held high, they wouldn't dare to kill him. This was because Tang Hepu was a direct descendant of the Tang family. This was the deterrence of identity. Who is this black-clothed assassin? He actually dared to kill Tang Hepu. Is this a disciple raised by a top force? Too powerful. This child will definitely be someone special in the future. A direct descendant of the Tang family died at the hands of the Blood Cloth Pavilion. This will be a good show to watch. It should be said that he died at the hands of the Blood Cloth Pavilion again. The Tang family has become more and more powerful in recent years. They deserve it. That's right. The Tang clan has lost 2 good seedlings in a row. I'm afraid they won't be able to replace the yellow. While everyone was discussing in low voices, Tang Wanxiu naturally saw the tragic deaths of Tang and Pu. Her heart immediately sank to the bottom. She was the main person in charge of this trip, so she naturally had to bear the responsibility. Now that Tang Hepu was dead, even if she escaped back home, she would have to face severe punishment from her family. Bing Shang threw out a few punches and each punch carried a bone-piercing chill. Tang Wanxiu made a strange movement. She placed her spiritual sword horizontally in front of her chest, and then actually shattered her own spiritual sword. Immediately after, the fragments of the spirit sword fell down like rain, shattering Icy Death's fist shadow and continuing to shoot forward without losing any momentum. Bing Shang clasped her hands together and a large amount of cold air condensed into an ice shield in front of her to block the spirit sword fragments. However, Tang Wanxiu took advantage of this time to emit a faint layer of blood aura all over her body. Her speed soared as she flipped over the wall of the Golden Wing Academy to escape. Bing Shang didn't seem to be good at speed. After hesitating for a moment, she didn't chase after her. At this time, Leng Shiqi had also killed the last Tang clan disciple and collected all their heads. These were all merits and resources. Bing Shang walked to Leng Shiqi and asked, "You also cultivate cold air?" Leng Shiqi didn't deny it and nodded. Naturally, he couldn't escape Bing Shang's eyes when he used ice spread. "Let's spar when we have time." After Bing Shang finished speaking, she directly rushed to another spiritual pulse realm cultivator of the Golden Wing Academy. Leng Shiqi secretly raised his eyebrows. He had never come into contact with Bing Shang, but from these two sentences she seemed to be a cultivation maniac. Next he looked around. At this time, almost all the low-level disciples of the Golden Wing Academy were dead, and cold corpses could be seen everywhere. In the spiritual pulse realm, there were only 3 people left in the academy who were struggling to hold on, but it seemed that it wouldn't take long for them to become corpses. As for He Liangkai, because he used his trump card, he firmly suppressed Duya. However, Duya was extremely slippery and didn't fight with He Liangkai head-on at all. He only suffered a small injury. However, several blood-clothed assassins rushed over to help. He Liangkai's road to defeat was doomed. Leng Shiqi suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Because he couldn't intervene in the battle of the 4 realms of heaven, and the low-level disciples of the Golden Wing Academy were all dead. He didn't know what to do. He looked at the other black-clothed assassins who had gathered and surrounded He Liangkai and Duan Jiming. However, they didn't dare to go forward, just to prevent the two from escaping. Leng Shiqi also walked over and then looked at the battle outside the academy gate. It was the battle between Feng Shamo and the Old Man of Mountain of Books. The two of them had already destroyed the magnificent gate of the Golden Wing Academy. Feng Shamo's blade power was sharp, and the Old Man of Mountain of Books' attack was majestic. No one dared to approach the place where the two of them were fighting. Leng Shiqi quietly opened his supercilious eyes. He wanted to observe the battle of the Masters of Gang Spirit Realm more clearly. The battle between Feng Shamo and the Old Man of Mountain of Books seemed to be evenly matched. However, the more it was so, the more uncomfortable the Old Man of Books felt. He had a feeling that his decades of cultivation were in vain. Gradually, his heart was filled with all kinds of complicated emotions which finally turned into hatred. He hated those high and mighty spirit cultivation sections. He hated those geniuses who had low cultivation but were arrogant because of their noble status. He hated that Feng Shamo, who was not half as old as him and whose cultivation was not as good as his, could be evenly matched with him. When he saw that the disciples of the Golden Wing Academy were basically slaughtered and his good friend He Liangkai almost died, he hated Feng Shamo and the blood-clothed pavilion even more. The Old Man of Books' face unconsciously became a little ferocious, and a very thin black gas appeared between his eyebrows. Seeing this, Feng Shamo gave a strange smile. Then he waved his saber casually. There was no terrifying saber light or surging saber aura. It was just a very ordinary saber. However, when this extremely ordinary saber came, a surge of hatred suddenly burst out, which instantly aroused the hatred of the Old Man of Books. The two waves of hatred mixed together, which instantly covered the Old Man of Books' eyes with a layer of black fog. He stood there in a daze, letting Feng Shamo chop off his head. The Old Man of Books Li Jianyuan, who was at the 3rd level of Gang Spirit Realm, was killed by Feng Shamo. Thousands of onlookers exclaimed one after another. When Feng Shamo walked in with the Old Man of Books' head, the crowd quickly quieted down. When He Liangkai saw this scene, his mentality collapsed instantly. He lost his mind, and Duya would not let go of this opportunity. His whole body turned into a black line and pierced through He Liangkai's heart, directly penetrating a fist-sized bloody hole. At the same time, the elder of the library Duan Jiming was also killed by the other blood-clothed assassins. At this point, the Golden Wing Academy was completely annihilated. Then, Feng Shamo waved his hand, and a group of assassins quickly plundered all kinds of resources of the Golden Wing Academy. Then they retreated like a tide, leaving the crowd still in a daze. The Golden Wing Academy was gone just like that. Chapter 185. The blood-robed pavilion openly exterminated the Golden Wing Academy and left with all the Academy's resources. The thousands of people who had come to participate in the discussion of scriptures could only watch helplessly. At the beginning, Feng Shamo and the Elder of Mountain of Books fought at the gate so they couldn't leave. Although they could also jump over the wall, when they found that the killers of the blood-robed pavilion only targeted the Academy disciples, they didn't run away. They just stood there and watched. They watched the killers of the blood-robed pavilion slaughter the Academy disciples. They watched xianxia get killed. They watched the blood-robed pavilion plunder the resources of the Golden Wing Academy. Among these people, there were either relatives or friends of the Academy disciples, or they were inextricably linked to the Golden Wing Academy. And there were many Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators among them. There were also Spirit Aperture Realm experts like Du Mingxian, Luo Xiuwu, and Lu Yi. If they joined hands, more than half of the killers of the blood-robed pavilion would die here today. However, they didn't make a move. Instead, the Elder of Mountain of Books, a rogue cultivator, made a move, and he was killed by Feng Shamo on the spot. The reason was none other than that they didn't dare to provoke the blood-robed pavilion, a top force. The Tang family dared to provoke them, but in the end their son was killed, and the new genius Tang Wanxiu narrowly escaped death. Even the Tang family, a first-rate force, was not taken seriously by the blood-robed pavilion, let alone people like them. At this point, the Golden Wing Academy would be removed from the world and they could only sigh. Alas, where can we scholars settle down from now on? I don't know who the Golden Wing Academy offended. Someone actually dared to invite the blood-robed pavilion to exterminate them. Who knows? A spirit cultivation sect is gone just like that. Today is the first day of the discussion, but in the end, it became the day of extermination. The blood-robed pavilion is indeed a top force in the world. This is just a branch, but it can easily exterminate the Golden Wing Academy. The gap between sects is huge. Look at the genius Tang Hepu of the Tang family. Even after using such a terrifying trump card, he still died in the hands of the black-robed killer. And the Elder of Mountain of Books, it is said that he was at the third level of the spirit astral realm, but he also died in the hands of Feng Shamo, who just entered the spirit astral realm. A top force is indeed a top force. It's too high to reach. When this matter spreads out, the blood-robed pavilion will definitely become famous in Donglin County. Then the crowd left the Golden Winged Academy that had been soaked in blood. Some of them were chatting happily, some of them were walking expressionlessly, and some of them looked gloomy. For example, Du Mingxian, Luo Xiuwu, and Lu Yi. The three of them had come here to join forces with the Golden Wing Academy to fight against the evil cultivators. Before Lu Luqing died, he had deliberately marked the aura of the 5 evil cultivators. As long as they used the formation, they could roughly locate them. However, the 3 families did not have the confidence to kill him. It was not only because he had the 5 ghost demon corpses, but also because they were afraid of his background. If they wanted to make a move, they had to eliminate all of them, so they wanted to join forces with the other spirit cultivator sects. However, he didn't expect that his first trip would be so unfavorable. Not only was it unfavorable, but he also brought bad luck upon himself. Seeing the Golden Wing Academy being destroyed by the Blood Cloak Pavilion so easily, they felt very uncomfortable. It wasn't because of the Golden Wing Academy, but a feeling of inferiority. In the eyes of those rogue cultivators, they could be said to be bright and beautiful. They were a dignified spirit cultivator sect. However, only they knew that although they were a spirit cultivator sect, they were a third-rate sect at the bottom. Above them there were still second-rate sects, first-rate sects, and those high and mighty top forces on the world sect ranking. Facing these forces, they had no choice but to lower their heads. Just like today when the Blood Cloak Pavilion appeared, they tacitly retreated, and they retreated very straightforwardly. Giving in had already become their habit. But they didn't like this feeling. Now that they saw the Golden Wing Academy being destroyed with their own eyes, they were all thinking that one day in the future, would their respective sects also be destroyed like this? Du Mingxuan's face darkened as he said, Brother Lu, what do you think about today's matter? Luo Xiuwu replied, What can I think? The Golden Wing Academy offended someone they shouldn't have offended. Sooner or later there will be this calamity. I heard that xianxia has been close to a prince of the empire recently. Do you think it has something to do with this? Louis finally said. A strange look flashed across Du Mingxuan's eyes as he said, a small Golden Wing Academy dares to get involved in the internal strife of the empire. They deserve such an outcome. A small Golden Wing Academy? Then aren't we the same? Louis sighed slightly. As soon as he said that, the other two's expressions turned even uglier. Luo Xiaowu said, forget it, we've made a wasted trip today. Let's think about how to deal with the demonic cultivators. My brother's death must be avenged. Louis also said seriously, that's right. Actually, if the three of us personally take action, I'm sure they won't be able to escape. Lu Yi's hatred for Su Lu and the other demonic cultivators was no less than Luo Xiaowu's. His Hao Yi sect had spent countless resources to nurture an array master, but he died just like that. How could Lu Yi let it go? Du Mingxian said, to be on the safe side, we'd better unite with one or two more forces, especially those who hate the demonic cultivators to the core. That's right. Fortunately, the mark Lu Leking left on the demonic cultivators before his death can last for a long time. We don't have to be too hasty. Then the three went directly to the next force. As for the others, after leaving the Golden Wing Academy, the news that the blood-robed pavilion destroyed the Golden Wing Academy in an instant spread out rapidly as if it had grown wings. Everyone who heard the news turned pale with fright. In Donglin County, it had been a long time since a spirit cultivation sect was destroyed. The name of the blood-robed pavilion suddenly became the most famous sect in Donglin County. In addition, the two most interesting things were about Feng Shamo and Leng Shiqi. Feng Shamo killed the Elder of Book Mountain, a famous master in Gang Spirit Realm, in front of everyone, which shocked everyone and made everyone know that the new head of the branch was not simple. After some people investigated it, they knew that Feng Shamo was actually the chief personal disciple of the master of the blood-robed pavilion. The master of the blood-robed pavilion put his chief personal disciple in Donglin County. What he wanted to do became the topic of many people's gossip. As for the other person, it was Leng Shiqi. He successively used exquisite swordsmanship, saber skills and demonic cultivation. After resisting Tang Haoquang's shadow, he still killed Tang Hepu, which also shocked everyone. Chapter 186. The Destruction of the Golden Wing Academy. To rogue cultivators, the spirit cultivator sect, which was unreachable in their eyes, was destroyed so casually. This somewhat subverted their understanding. As for those sects that were also third-rate forces, they were all treading on thin ice. They were afraid of provoking someone and following in the footsteps of the Golden Wing Academy. However, for the second-rate and first-rate sects, this matter only slightly surprised them because if they took action, they could also destroy the Golden Wing Academy. However, it was completely different for the Tang family. Some time ago, their eldest son, Tang Heyu, the hope of the family's future revival, died in the hands of Bing Shang of the Blood Garment Pavilion. This time, the second son, Tang Hepu, died in the hands of the Blood Garment Pavilion's assassins again. It could be said that the Blood Garment Pavilion had cut off the foundation of the Tang family for the next few decades. As for Tang Wanqiu, the concubine's daughter who relied on external objects to forcefully break through to the spiritual pulse realm, she had never been taken seriously by the Tang family's higher-ups. At this point, the Tang family had to face the fact that they were short of manpower, which suddenly pulled them from heaven to hell. Therefore, the Tang family urgently gathered all the higher-ups to discuss this matter. Some said that they wanted to suppress the Blood Garment Pavilion, while others said that they wanted a stable transition. The two sides quarreled fiercely. The assassins of the Blood Garment Pavilion who caused all this had long returned to the pavilion and quickly returned to their normal lives. For example, Leng Shiqi immediately went into his stone room after returning. Firstly, he was cultivating, and secondly, he was healing the injury on his right arm. At this moment, his entire right arm was shrouded in a faint layer of demonic aura. The demonic aura seemed to be eroding the flesh on his arm, but in the blink of an eye, the flesh and blood were reborn again. Leng Shiqi gritted his teeth and did not make a sound. He was using the 9 Nether Mageweth diagram to heal his injury. This way, not only could he heal quickly, but he could also temper the strength of his right arm. Could be said that he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Otherwise, pain was inevitable. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi's willpower was strong enough now, so he could completely accept this degree of pain. This continued for more than half a day, and the wound on his right arm had basically healed, but there were still some scars left behind. Lung Shiqi finished his cultivation and put on his clothes. Then he began to recall the last strike Feng Shanmo had used to kill the old man of books. When he activated the supercilious eye, he clearly saw that the spiritual energy in the old man of books' body was completely normal. However, he couldn't understand why the old man of books would stand still and let Feng Shanmo chop off his head. Lung Shiqi suddenly remembered that there was an indescribable aura at that time. It was not spiritual energy or momentum, but more like some kind of emotion. However, he was too far away to know what it was. After thinking for a long time, Lung Shiqi shook his head with a headache and said to himself, "Alas, Gang Spirit Realm is too far away for me. Now I'm not even in the celestial being 4 realms. If I spy on the battle between Gang Spirit Realm experts, I'll be overestimating myself. Who is it?" Just as Lung Shiqi was pondering, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. He roared and turned around with his sword in hand. However, there was no one behind him. To his horror, a voice sounded, "You're quite alert." Hearing this voice, Lung Shiqi was shocked. He was not only surprised by how the person came in, but also surprised by why the person came to him. However, he also put down the jade sword in his hand, because the owner of this voice was the head of the sub-pavilion, Feng Shanmo. Disciple Lung Shiqi pays his respects to the head of the sub-pavilion. Lung Shiqi bowed and said. Feng Shanmo's figure appeared in front of Lung Shiqi strangely. With his hands behind his back, he said, "I'm here to ask you something." Lung Shiqi replied, "I'll tell you everything I know." How dare you kill a disciple of the Tang family?" Feng Shanmo said in a meaningful tone. Countless thoughts flashed through Lung Shiqi's mind. He immediately said, "I dare not disobey the head of the sub-pavilion." Feng Shanmo turned his head in surprise and said, Well done. I appreciate you more and more." "I dare not." "Okay, let's get down to business. I'm here to fulfill my promise." Lung Shiqi's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Back then, he had wanted to kill Tang Hepu because of the 10 times reward that Feng Shanmo had mentioned. After everyone returned, everyone who participated in the mission was rewarded according to their contributions. Only Lung Shiqi hadn't received his reward. However, he didn't expect Feng Shanmo to come to him, and it seemed like he came secretly. Feng Shanmo raised 3 fingers and said, "I've said before that the reward for killing a disciple of the Tang family will be doubled, and the reward for killing Tang Hepu will be 10 times. Not only did you kill Tang Hepu, but you also killed 4 disciples of the Tang family. After thinking about it, I've decided to give you 3 rewards. First, give me your identity token." Lung Shiqi took out his identity token. He already knew what Feng Shanmo was going to give him. It was definitely a drop of blood, but he didn't know how much it would be. Feng Shanmo also took out his own identity token. With a swipe of his finger, the number 1000 was drawn into Lung Shiqi's identity token. 1000 drops of blood. Lung Shiqi exclaimed in his heart. He had only received 50 drops of blood from assassinating Bao Pingyi. In other words, this was equivalent to 22-star missions. Feng Shanmo said, "You participated in the mission to destroy the Golden Wing Academy. You could have received 50 drops of blood, but I've rounded it up for you." "Thank you, Grand Pavilion Leader." Lung Shiqi thanked him sincerely. Now he knew how precious the drop of blood was. Not only could it be exchanged for various cultivation resources, but it could also be used to buy a higher-level cultivation room. At the same time, it was necessary to become a blood cloak assassin. It could be said that the drop of blood was the most precious thing in the blood cloak pavilion. "This is only the first reward. The second is this," Feng Shanmo said as he took out a small transparent bottle. There was a drop of sparkling red liquid in the bottle. Although the liquid was sealed in the small bottle, Lung Shiqi could feel the pure spiritual energy in it. This is the saliva of a 1,000-year-old black tortoise. It has been refined by blood refining. This drop of saliva contains more spiritual energy than a dozen spiritual transformation pills. Moreover, the spiritual energy in it is extremely pure. After refining it, there won't be any hidden dangers in cultivation. After hearing this, Lung Shiqi couldn't help but be moved. According to what Feng Shanmo said, this drop of saliva essence's spiritual energy was comparable to a dozen spiritual transformation pills, but its value was more precious than a dozen spiritual transformation pills. Especially after refining this drop of saliva essence, there wouldn't be any hidden dangers. This was definitely a high-level treasure. Chapter 187. Lung Shiqi was also surprised that Feng Shanmo would take out such a high-grade resource like saliva essence. Feng Shanmo said, "I should have given you some spirit stones and pills, but I think this might be more suitable for you. Leng Shiqi knew that Feng Shamo was taking care of him, so he said, I'll remember your kindness. Okay, I'll remember that. As for the third reward, our pavilion can give you a tier 4 spirit artifact. What kind of artifact do you want? Feng Shamo said. Leng Shiqi thought for a moment. If it was a weapon, he would also want a level 4 spirit spear. However, he suddenly remembered that he lacked a way to defend against Tang Haoquang's attack. In other words, the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle patterns were too simple. Therefore, he wanted a defensive spirit weapon. Generally speaking, defensive spirit weapons were more precious than weapons. Thus, after pondering for a moment, he said, Disciple wants a defense-type spirit artifact. Feng Shamo said, You sure know how to pick. Fine, you can have this. He took out a small brown umbrella from his mustard seed bag and said, This is a level 4 spirit weapon, mountain umbrella. Its defense is quite good. Leng Shiqi said a few words of praise and took the umbrella. With this umbrella, it could be said that he made up for his last shortcoming. Although his body wasn't weak and he had the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle patterns, these were all his body's defenses. He could only use his body to take damage as a last resort. Now that he had the mountain umbrella, it was completely different. It was equivalent to having another life-saving method. Feng Shamo had given him a lot of benefits this time. There were large amounts of sect contribution points, treasures to increase cultivation, and defensive spirit weapons to protect his life. Leng Shiqi had suddenly become rich. He was secretly glad that he had exposed some of his strength to kill Tang Hapu. Otherwise, he wouldn't have received such a generous reward. However, when he thought of this, he began to hesitate. Wasn't Feng Shamo's reward a little too good? This inevitably made him suspect that Feng Shamo had other motives. As expected, Feng Shamo had more to say. He continued, Other than giving you the reward you deserve, the pavilion has something else to tell you. Leng Shiqi knew that things were not that simple, but he still said respectfully, This disciple is listening. We know who you are, and we also know that you have boundless potential. However, potential is just potential. Take Tang Hapu, who was killed by you. He could be considered a genius, but he still died in the end. Potential is not strength, and your strength is not enough. Our pavilion has a task for you, but you must at least be at the spirit vein stage before you can do it. If you can break through to the spirit vein stage within half a year, the pavilion will give you a great opportunity. If you can't, then that's all you can do. When Leng Shiqi heard this, his eyebrows hidden under the mask couldn't help but twitch. It was mainly because Feng Shamo's words were extremely familiar to him. Because more than a month ago his chief master Wuxiang, one of the 9 Hades Blood Cloak assassins of the Blood Cloak Pavilion, said something similar. However, Wuxiang gave him a year's time, while Feng Shamo only gave him half a year. In other words, he had to break through to the Sky Realm within half a year. This way he could complete the task given by Feng Shamo and Wuxiang at the same time. However, although it was easy to say, it was extremely difficult to do. Among the countless spirit cultivators, more than 70% of them were blocked outside the gates of the Sky Realm. One could imagine how difficult it was. Leng Shiqi knew that his cultivation talent was considered good, but it was definitely not the best. If he cultivated step by step with the help of the system, he was confident that he could break through to the spirit vein stage before the age of 20. Tang Heyu of the Tang family broke through to the spirit vein stage at the age of 24 and suppressed all the genius disciples in Donglin County. Leng Shiqi could break through before the age of 20, so he was naturally a genius among geniuses. However, the Blood Cloak Pavilion was not satisfied. Wuxiang was not satisfied either, and even Feng Shamo was not satisfied. If Leng Shiqi could really fulfill Feng Shamo's request, then it would be the same as stepping into the Sky Realm at the age of 14. This was simply too shocking. Even Leng Shiqi himself could not believe that he could do it. Feng Shamo seemed to have seen through Leng Shiqi's thoughts and directly said, In this half a year, you cannot accept any tasks. Whatever you want to do, the pavilion will support you. The pavilion will only see the results in half a year. After that, Leng Shiqi felt a gust of wind blow before him, and then Feng Shamo's figure vanished before his eyes. However, Leng Shiqi did not have the time to be surprised by Feng Shamo's strength. His heart was filled with endless pressure. He was thinking about how to quickly improve his cultivation. Spirit stones and pills were a must. Fortunately, he had swept through the remaining resources of the Triad and Chinko Hall, so he didn't lack them for the time being. It was definitely enough for him to reach the peak of the spirit transformation realm. However, he couldn't take too many pills because every time he swallowed a pill, there would be some dregs left in his body. The amount of dregs was related to the quality of the pill. The higher the quality of the pill, the less dregs there would be. No matter how high quality a pill was, after taking too many, it would gradually block the meridians, causing cultivation to slow down. It would also affect the circulation of spirit force during battle. This was why Ling Shiqi would only take one pill every few days. He was afraid of leaving too much dregs in his body. Aside from spirit stones and pills, there was also the drop of saliva essence in his hand. If Feng Shama was right, then this drop of saliva essence was equivalent to a dozen spirit transformation realm pills. This would be enough for him to reach the peak of the 7th layer of the spirit transformation realm. What about after that? The only way Ling Shiqi could think of was to refine demonic blood. However, to refine demonic blood, one had to kill demonic beasts. Demonic beasts were very common on the Blood Mist Island, but they were very rare in the Great World. It was impossible to find them in ordinary places. Ling Shiqi began to recall the records of demonic beasts on the continent. There were only 2 places on the continent that had demonic beasts. One was the northern wilderness. It was said that there were countless demonic beasts there, but it was far outside of the Thunderfire Dynasty's territory. The other was the demonic Miasma Mountain Range. Part of it was in the Thunderfire Dynasty's territory, and there were many demonic beasts there. It was easy to choose between the two. Ling Shiqi pondered for a while and decided to go to the demonic Miasma Mountain Range. However, the demonic Miasma Mountain Range was thousands of kilometers away from the eastern Lin County. Just the journey back and forth would take a lot of time. Time was very precious to him right now. It looks like I really have to find Feng Shamo for a solution. Chapter 188. Demonic beasts were very rare in the Falling Star continent. There were even some low-level spirit cultivators who had never seen a demonic beast in their entire lives. There were only 2 places in the Falling Star continent where one could see a large number of demonic beasts. One was the demonic Miasma Mountain Range. This mountain range spanned across the territories of the 3 great empires. With the suppression of the 3 great empires, the demonic Miasma Mountain Range gradually became a good place for spirit cultivators to search for treasures and gain experience. The other place where one could see demonic beasts was the northern wilderness. It was said that there were countless demonic beasts hiding there, but because of this, very few people dared to enter the northern wilderness. The entrance to the demonic Miasma Mountain Range was in the demon-suppressing town of Yongping County. The demon-suppressing town was a very special city because everyone inside was a spirit cultivator. This was the only town in the Thunderfire Dynasty that only allowed spirit cultivators to enter. This was not discrimination against ordinary people, but every once in a while the demonic beasts in the demonic Miasma Mountain Range would riot, so this arrangement was for safety reasons. On this day, a short old man with 2 scimitars on his waist walked into the demon-suppressing town with a bag on his back. This person was Ling Shiqi after disguising himself. He specially used 100 drops of blood to exchange for an old man's skin mask. This mask was quite exquisite, and even his eyes were covered, revealing a bit of turbidity. At the same time, he used the breath-restraining technique to lower his cultivation to the 4th level of the spirit transformation realm. 2 days ago, after Feng Shamo came to find him, he decided to make a trip to the demonic Miasma Mountain Range. That's right, 2 days ago. Yongping County and Donglin County were thousands of miles apart, but Ling Shiqi only used 2 days to arrive. The reason was because he used the teleportation array in the Donglin County branch. Every branch of the Blood Robe Pavilion had a teleportation array, but under normal circumstances, this teleportation array was used to transmit information and materials, and was rarely used to teleport people. Ling Shiqi was only qualified to use it when Feng Shamo opened the back door, and he had to pay an expensive fee. Because the distance was too far, he had to teleport twice from the Donglin County branch to the Yongping County branch. A total of 800 drops of blood and 1,000 spirit stones. Until now, he only had a little more than 100 spirit stones left, which was only enough for his daily cultivation. If he had taken the normal route to get here, it would have taken him at least a month. Just the round trip alone would have taken him 2 months. One had to know that he only had 6 months in total, so he could only use blood drops and spirit stones to buy time. Ling Shiqi walked along the streets and surveyed his surroundings. The most direct impression he got from this city was that it was huge. It was at least 10 times bigger than Upper Sun City. The place was bustling with activity. Every street and shop was packed with people, making the Ling Shiqi truly feel the prosperous atmosphere of spirit cultivation. Other than doing business, almost all of the spirit cultivators in the demon-suppressing demon city came for the demon Miasma Mountain Range. In other words, they hunted demonic beasts for a living. The people here called these spirit cultivators demon hunters. Lung Shiqi could see the corpses of demonic beasts being transported back and forth. There were even a few demonic beasts that were still alive being tied up and carried. He felt that it was a little novel, but the passers-by did not seem to find it strange. However, he also knew his purpose for coming here. He did not want to waste any time and directly walked towards the entrance of the Demon Miasma mountain range. The entrance of the Demon Miasma mountain range was very big, but the Thunderblaze dynasty had built a thick wall that was several meters tall at the entrance, sealing off the entire entrance. There was only one gate in the wall that led to the Demon Miasma mountain range, and in front of the gate was a plaza. When Lung Shiqi arrived, he was immediately stunned. This place could be described as a sea of people. Before he could even get close, he could already hear waves of voices. There were many people setting up stalls on the ground in the plaza, selling necessities and consumables for entering the Demon Miasma mountain range. There were also demonic beast materials and materials for refining pills and equipment from the Demon Miasma mountain range. Other than these, there were even more people who were shouting to form teams to hunt demonic beasts. Come, come, come. Those who want to hunt the second-ranked demonic beast, Blackbird Snake, come over. Those who dare to enter the inner region, come over here. Those below the 4th stage of Sky Realm, do not disturb us. Let's go and capture the purple ancient beast. Come quickly, we're only missing one person. Looking at this scene, Lung Shiqi could not help but feel emotional. In his previous life, he had only seen such a scene in the game. Was this not forming a team to hunt demonic beasts? Lung Shiqi thought for a moment and decided to join a team to enter the Demon Miasma mountain range. Although this would affect his speed of hunting demonic beasts, he was still a newcomer to this place and was unfamiliar with it. Following a team was the fastest way to familiarize himself with this place. Moreover, he could also explore the map while he was at it. Once he had explored the map, he would be able to move around on his own. Lung Shiqi first walked around the plaza and bought some miasma repellent pills. The reason why the Demon Miasma mountain range was called the Demon Miasma mountain range was because not only were there demonic beasts, there was also miasma. Moreover, the deeper one went into the mountain range, the thicker the miasma would be. Therefore, the miasma repellent pills were a necessity to enter the Demon Miasma mountain range. While he was buying the miasma repellent pills, he was also silently looking for a suitable team. He did not have any requirements for the team, but he did have requirements for the target that he wanted to hunt. It would be best if it was a demonic beast that was not slow and liked to run around. That way he would be able to explore the map even faster. After observing for a while, Lung Shiqi walked toward a man and a woman. The two of them looked to be in their 30s. The man was wearing leather armor and had a burly figure. He was at the 7th layer of the spirit transformation realm. The woman was wearing tight clothes and had an ordinary appearance. She was stroking her hair in boredom and was at the 6th layer of the spirit transformation realm. The middle-aged man would occasionally shout, "Capture the rank 2 silver earth deer." Those at the mid-stage of the spirit transformation realm and above, those with movement techniques will have priority. Just as the middle-aged man finished speaking, a small old man quickly walked through the crowd and did not touch a single person. The small old man stood before the middle-aged man and slowly said, "I wonder if this old man can join?" The middle-aged man and the woman looked at each other and nodded. They had seen the scene of Lung Shiqi using his movement technique. Furthermore, his cultivation was at the 4th layer of the spirit transformation realm, which completely met their requirements. Although the 4th layer of the spirit transformation realm was a bit low, they knew that spirit cultivators with low cultivation at this age were very difficult to deal with. This was because these people knew that it would be difficult for their cultivation to improve, so they would spend a lot of time polishing their spirit techniques. Their battle strength was not weak. "I am Cui Jing and this is my wife Xianxia. Welcome, old mister." The middle-aged man introduced himself. Lung Shiqi smiled and said, "This old man is Lu Xingji." Chapter 189. After Lung Shiqi successfully joined the team, they started chatting with each other. "I see that old Mr. Lu is quite curious about this place. Could it be that this is old Mr.'s first time in Demon Suppressing City?" Xianxia was a shrewd and meticulous woman. She noticed the occasional flash of curiosity in Lung Shiqi's eyes, but her tone did not have the slightest bit of respect for the old man. Lung Shiqi's heart slightly changed. He thought that this woman was indeed meticulous. However, he did not have to deliberately hide it and replied, "That's right. This old man is already in his twilight years and wants to walk around and see more. I also came here to see the demonic miasma mountain range." "So that's how it is. This little girl actually also wants to walk around the Thunderfire dynasty and see all the mountains and rivers. Unfortunately, Xianxia suddenly stopped here because two more people were walking over. Leng Shiqi also turned his head and saw two young men walking over. One of them had a simple and honest face while the other looked a bit impatient. However, the two of them had higher cultivations than the simple and honest young man. They were at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm while the impatient young man was only at the 4th level. Cui Jing went up to them and the three of them began to chat. Leng Shiqi secretly listened and knew that the simple and honest young man was called Huyan Men and the other was called Hongxiang. Although their personalities were very different, the two of them carried a faint arrogance in their movements. He guessed that the two of them should be disciples of some spirit cultivation sect that came out to gain experience. Since he could see through it, Cui Jing and Xianxia could naturally see through it as well. The two of them did not have high cultivations, but since they were from a spirit cultivator sect, their skills should not be bad, so Cui Jing included them in the team. Now their team had 5 people. Cui Jing said, "The number of people is about right. Let's prepare to set off. This time our goal is to capture the silver ground deer alive. The silver ground deer is a very vigilant demonic beast. If there is any movement around it, it will immediately run away. Therefore, after finding the silver ground deer, we must not alert it. The team was formed by me and my cultivation is the highest. After entering the demonic miasma mountain range, you must listen to me. Otherwise, failing the mission is a small matter, but don't lose your life. Finally, in order to cooperate better in the future, everyone should talk about what they are good at. I use a heavy axe and my wife is a spirit caster who specializes in wood-type spirit spells." Leng 17 and the other two glanced at Xianxia in surprise. Clearly they did not expect her to be a spirit caster. Moreover, she majored in would attribute spirit spells. In a place like the demonic miasma mountain range, where trees and forests were everywhere, she could be said to be like a fish in water. What Leng Shiqi was even more puzzled was that since Xianxia was a spirit caster, it should be easy for her to join a spirit cultivator sect. Even second-rate sects would open their doors to welcome her. Then why was she still rushing about in this dangerous demonic miasma mountain range? Leng Shiqi inadvertently glanced at Cui Jing and thought, could it be because of him? The power of love is truly great. At this moment, the simple and honest youth Huyan Men said, "I'm good at fist techniques." Hongxiang said, "I use a sword." Leng Shiqi finally said, "This old man is proficient in blade techniques and has dabbled in other things." Hearing Leng Shiqi's words, the other 4 people weren't surprised. After all, he was already so old, it was reasonable for him to know more things. Cui Jing picked up the large axe beside him and said, "Okay, I'll give everyone an hour to prepare. Entering the demonic miasma mountain range is no small matter. All of the supplies must be prepared. After an hour, gather here." The few people immediately dispersed. Leng Shiqi walked around nearby and prepared some dry food and water. When he passed by the small stalls, his heart suddenly moved. It was said that in a place like this, there would always be some amazing treasures hidden and sold as ordinary things. Leng Shiqi didn't think that he had any old man to help him, but he had the system. Leng Shiqi casually walked to a stall and picked up a rank 2 monster core. Suddenly, a system prompt appeared in front of him that only he could see. The value is 22 system coins. Do you want to sell? No. Of course, Leng Shiqi couldn't take other people's things in front of him. Then he picked up another rank 1 spiritual weapon. The value is 13 system coins. Do you want to sell? No. Leng Shiqi picked up one item after another, but there was nothing special about them according to the system's notification. When the stall owner saw that Leng Shiqi was still dissatisfied after going through all his things, he said angrily, "If you want to buy, then buy. If you don't want to buy, then leave." Leng Shiqi touched his nose a little awkwardly, then walked to the next stall. Anyway, there was still plenty of time. He could still look around. However, after looking at dozens of stalls, Leng Shiqi still didn't find anything. Just as the appointed time was approaching, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of Leng Shiqi's eyes. The value is 273 system coins. Do you want to sell? Leng Shiqi's eyes lit up. He carefully looked at the black stone in his hand, but he couldn't see anything special about it. He directly asked the stall owner, "What is this? Are you selling it?" The stall owner was a young man in his 20s. Seeing that someone was interested in the item, he was about to fabricate an earth-shattering story. However, Leng Shiqi interrupted him and said, "That's right. Young man, this old man has walked more roads than you have bridges. Don't make up stories. The stall owner immediately smiled and said, "Old man, I didn't say anything. You can't accuse me. This old man has important things to do. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. I'll take it for 1,000. What? 1,000? The stall owner was naturally unwilling. The main currency in Jingyao town was spirit stones. Ordinary gold and silver were not very useful here. Lung Shiqi made an impatient expression and said, "Young man, don't be greedy. You earned 1,000 for free. Otherwise you can keep it to eat dust." The stall owner was still a little hesitant. Lung Shiqi was most afraid that the stall owner would think too much. Once the stall owner thought carefully, he might realize that something was wrong. So, Lung Shiqi directly took out 1,000 silver notes and put it on the stall. Then he picked up the stone and left. Before the stall owner could react, Lung Shiqi turned and left. He opened his mouth and was about to call Lung Shiqi back, but when he saw the money in front of him, he closed his mouth and put it away. It would be a waste if he didn't earn 1,000. Lung Shiqi saw that the stall owner didn't call him back. He immediately quickened his pace and returned to the meeting place. When he arrived, the others were already there. He nodded to them as a greeting. Cui Jing carried a large bag and a heavy axe and shouted, "Let's go!" Chapter 190. After entering the demonic miasma mountain range, Lung Shiqi immediately swallowed a miasma-repelling pill. The entire demonic miasma mountain range was filled with a faint yellow miasma. If this miasma was breathed into the body, it would not cause any problems for a short period of time, but if it accumulated too much, it would seriously corrode the meridians and destroy the cultivation foundation. The demonic miasma mountain range was roughly divided into the outer region, the inner region, and the center region. Generally speaking, spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of sky human could only wander around the outer region. The outer region was basically filled with level 1 and level 2 monsters. Of course, there would be level 3 monsters occasionally, but the chances of encountering them were very small. Only level 4 realms of sky human experts had the qualifications to enter the inner region. The weakest monsters inside were level 3 monsters. As for the center region, it was said that even Unity of Heaven experts did not dare to casually enter. Lung Shiqi's group of 5 walked into the mountain range. As they walked, the mountain path gradually disappeared. There were fewer and fewer people around them. The trees grew thicker and thicker. Even the miasma seemed to be thicker. Lung Shiqi observed the surroundings as he walked. One of his hands was on the hilt of his blade, and he was alert at all times. After about 2 hours, Cui Jing, who was walking at the front, suddenly raised his hand. Lung Shiqi and the rest immediately stopped and quietly hid behind a nearby tree. Lung Shiqi saw from the corner of his eyes that there was a rather large monster not far away. "It's the white beast," Cui Jing said softly. The white beast was a level 2 monster. Its biggest characteristic was that its defense was very strong, and its speed was not slow either. Unless it was specifically to hunt the white beast, ordinary people would not provoke it. Cui Jing said, "Let's go around it quietly. Don't alert it." Lung Shiqi and the others nodded in agreement. They were all proficient in movement techniques, and under their deliberate control, they didn't make any sound even when they were walking in the forest. They went around in a big circle to avoid the white beast. Cui Jing then took out a map and gestured a few times, saying, "The silver ground deer likes to eat silver flower gu leaves. Let's go to a place with silver flower gu leaves and wait." "Wait," Hong Xiang said with a little dissatisfaction. "Then how long do we have to wait? What if the silver earth deer goes somewhere else? Do we have to keep waiting?" Cui Jing's tone suddenly sank. "If you have any other way to find the silver ground deer, then tell me." Hong Xiang was speechless. He mumbled, "I just don't want to waste time. You are wasting time talking nonsense here." At this time, Xuanhuan coldly said, not giving him any face. Hong Xiang's face was filled with anger, but Huyan Men pulled him back. In the end, he didn't say anything. Cui Jing put away the map and said, "Everyone, it seems that I have to say the ugly words first. If you don't want to listen to me, it's not too late for you to go back now. You can still find your way back. However, if you do this again in the future, don't blame me for mercilessly throwing you into the demonic miasma mountain range. Without a precise map, what will happen if you get lost in a mountain range filled with demonic beasts? Think about it yourself." With that, he took the lead and walked forward, followed by Xuanhuan and Lung Shiqi. Hong Xiang and Huyan Men hesitated for a moment, but still followed. Lung Shiqi walked in the middle of the two groups. He didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. When he saw Cui Jing's map, he knew that he had to follow Cui Jing. He was still thinking about whether or not he should find a chance to snatch the map. However, he still dispelled the idea. He had just entered the demonic miasma mountain range and was still unfamiliar with the situation here. With such an experienced demonic beast hunter leading the way, it would be much more convenient. As for the map, he would think of something in the future. The group of 5 continued walking after a small wave, but the atmosphere was heavier than before. This was not only because of the small conflict, but also because they were encountering demonic beasts more and more frequently. Fortunately, they all had movement-type spirit techniques. They continuously avoided 3 rank 2 demonic beasts and finally arrived at their destination. This was a sparse forest. There were many plants growing on the ground. The roots were light silver, but the leaves were dark green. This was the silver flower gu leaf, which was also the favorite food of the silver ground deer. Furthermore, this silver flower gu leaf had no use for spirit cultivators, so very few people picked it. Cui Jing brought a few people to hide behind a tree and whispered, "We will wait here until noon tomorrow. If the silver ground deer doesn't come, we will change to another place." Yanjun. Xianxia didn't say anything when she heard this. Her hands flashed with a faint spirit light as she continuously formed hand seals. The branches on the trees around them began to wriggle like living creatures. Not long after, a large net was formed above the silver flower gu leaves. Spirit Seal School? Lung Shiqi thought to himself. Lung Shiqi specially went to understand the system of spirit cultivators not long ago. Among the spirit cultivators there were roughly 3 systems: Spirit Seal School, Spirit Incantation School, and Spirit Array School. The Spirit Seal School used both hands to form seals to attract the elements of heaven and earth to form spirit techniques. This school required a large amount of practice in the beginning to increase the speed of forming seals. Furthermore, because both hands were required to form seals, there was no way to use spirit tools. They could only use some auxiliary spirit tools. Lung Shiqi's centipede incantation belonged to this school. However, the biggest advantage of the Spirit Seal School was that before reaching the Sky Realm, they would have decent fighting strength. For a Spirit Seal School spirit cultivator like Xianxia who majored in wood-type spirit techniques, she could definitely fight against a spirit cultivator at the 8th or 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. The other spirit incantation school was chanting incantations to communicate with the elements of heaven and earth. It was easier to get started, but it was easy to be interrupted. As for the Spirit Array School, it was the rarest of the 3 schools. It was also the hardest to cultivate because one had to be proficient in spirit arrays. Lung Shiqi's spirit attack was this kind of spirit array. In short, each of the 3 schools had its pros and cons. At this time Xianxia spoke, "We want to capture the silver ground deer alive. Once it appears, I will use a net to bind it. Don't use weapons first, injure it as quickly as possible." Lung Shiqi replied, "This old man understands." Hong Ziong and Huyan Men also nodded, but didn't say anything. Thus they began to wait for a long time. Gradually the sun set in the west, and the mountain range quickly entered the night. People say that time passes very slowly when waiting. Lung Shiqi relied on his high spiritual power to take a nap. Cui Jing and Xianxia seemed to be used to this and didn't think much of it. Huyan Men was originally a bit slow, so he sat there in a daze thinking about something. Only Hong Ziong became more and more impatient, and frequently poked his head out to take a look. Suddenly he shouted, "It's here!" Chapter 191. Hong Ziong suddenly shouted out a sentence, and Lung Shiqi knew that something was wrong. He hurriedly turned around and saw a snow-white deer standing there. When it heard Hong Ziong's voice, it immediately ran away. Cui Jing immediately shouted, "Idiot!" Xianxia hurriedly formed a seal, and the prepared net fell down. However, the silver ground deer's speed was too fast, and the net was too late, unable to stop it. Cui Jing and Xianxia had no time to blame Hong Ziong, and the 2 of them immediately rushed out to chase after the silver ground deer. Lung Shiqi didn't care at all. He didn't come here to catch the silver ground deer, and then he used spirit steps to catch up with Cui Jing and his wife. At this moment Hong Ziong's face was green and red. He also realized his mistake and felt a little guilty. However, Lung Shiqi and the other 2 ignored him, which made him feel a little angry. Huyan Men only came back to his senses at this moment. He touched the back of his head and said, "Junior Hong, where are they? What did you shout just now?" "Don't ask, hurry up and chase." Hong Ziong was too lazy to explain to him and pulled him along as he ran. The strange thing was, after running for a few steps, Huyan Men's speed suddenly surpassed Hong Ziong's, and he was left behind. The silver ground deer's jumping ability was very good, and it could jump a few feet with a casual jump. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi and the rest weren't slow, and Cui Jing was quite familiar with the surrounding terrain, so they were able to catch up. However, if they continued like this, they didn't know when they would be able to catch up to the silver ground deer. Moreover, if they were to charge forward like this, it was very likely that they would bump into other demonic beasts. At that time, not only would they lose track of the silver ground deer, they would also get into big trouble. Cui Jing was a little anxious and he gave Xianxia a look. Xianxia quickly formed a seal as she ran, and Leng Shiqi, who was behind her, immediately felt a strong mental power surge out from her body. Shortly after, Xianxia let out a low roar. The two small trees in front of her suddenly whipped down like vines, aiming directly at the silver ground deer. The silver ground deer had some intelligence. It sensed the danger from above and stopped abruptly. The two vines brushed past its nose and drew two deep marks on the ground. Seeing that the silver ground deer had stopped, Cui Jing did not care about anything else. His speed increased explosively, and in a few blinks of an eye, he rushed over. The heavy axe in his hand was as light as a feather, and he swung it with ease, smashing it down with the force of a mountain. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Cui Jing's axe cut through half of the ground, and the force of the axe created a large hole. However, the silver ground deer had already dodged it. At this moment, a figure flashed past like a ghost. Then a large number of saber shadows fell down. It was Leng Shiqi. The silver ground deer was very fast, but no matter how fast it was, it could not dodge all the saber shadows. With a few poochie sounds, a few saber marks appeared on its body. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The silver ground deer let out a strange cry in pain. Leng Shiqi and the others did not care too much. As long as they could keep it here, it was fine. Immediately, Xianxia weaved a large net again. Cui Jing and Leng Shiqi tacitly blocked the silver ground deer. Seeing that Xianxia was about to drop the net, Huyan Men and Hong Xiang arrived one after another. Cui Jing immediately shouted, "Quick, stop the silver ground deer." Hong Xiang immediately pulled out his spiritual sword and prepared to attack, but he realized that the silver ground deer was staring at him. Hong Xiang's heart suddenly thumped. The silver ground deer's intelligence was not low. It immediately recognized that the weakest of the five was Hong Xiang. The deer antlers on its head suddenly released a silver brilliance, and a few sharp spikes appeared on its antlers. Immediately after, the silver ground deer ignored Leng Shiqi and Cui Jing's attacks and charged directly at Hong Xiang. Cui Jing hurriedly said, "Don't be afraid, hold it back. The net is about to drop." Unfortunately, Hong Xiang had never faced a rank 2 monster before. Moreover, it was a rank 2 monster that was charging straight at him. At this moment, Hong Xiang's first reaction was to run. Hong Xiang's ears did not hear Cui Jing's words at all. He only wanted to run. Even Leng Shiqi felt that this Hong Xiang was too weak. He did not know which sect trained this disciple. Cui Jing was probably going to explode in anger. Not only that, Huyan Men was also a talent. He originally thought that Huyan Men was just a little simple and honest, but now he was just standing there foolishly. It seemed that he was just a simpleton. At this moment, Leng Shiqi suddenly suspected that the three of them, including him, were all newcomers to the demonic Miasma mountain range. Cui Jing and his wife brought such a person to catch the silver ground deer. Wasn't it a little too dramatic? Was there some other hidden story? Or was it that Cui Jing and his wife were warm-hearted and liked to bring newcomers? However, this was not the time for him to think about it. After Hong Xiang turned to run, the silver ground deer chased after Huyan Men and used this opportunity to escape the encirclement. Just as it was running, Huyan Men inexplicably punched out. His punches were slow and sluggish, like an old man punching the air. However, the moment the silver ground deer passed by Huyan Men, a muffled ping sound was heard. A large part of the silver ground deer's abdomen caved in, and its body flew out. And Huyan Men was still in a punching position. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed with surprise. He did not know if Huyan Men had predicted this or if it was a lucky hit, but he did not want to give up this opportunity. He quickly pulled out his sword and charged at the silver ground deer. Cui Jing and Xianxia did the same. Leng Shiqi threw out a gale slash. This time the silver ground deer did not run away. Instead, it turned its body and charged at him with the antlers on its head. A crisp dang sound was heard. Leng Shiqi's dual blades slashed at the silver ground deer's antlers, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. His eyes focused. He used a rank 4 spirit blade and a rank 2 gale slash, but he only managed to cut off a small part of the silver ground deer's antlers. Cui Jing also attacked at this moment. When he saw Leng Shiqi destroy the silver ground deer's antlers, his heart ached. This way, even if the silver ground deer were to be captured alive, the price would be lowered. Just as Cui Jing raised his giant axe and Xuanhuan was about to use a spirit technique to trap the silver ground deer, the silver ground deer suddenly let out a happy cry. Immediately after, Leng Shiqi felt the ground tremble slightly, and the trembling was getting stronger and stronger. Not long after, an extremely tall and strange demon beast that was completely crimson-red like a rock appeared before their eyes. Its terrifying demonic aura emanated from its body. Cui Jing's mouth was wide open and he said in shock, "Rank 3 demon beast, red crag beast?" Chapter 192. The sudden appearance of a rank 3 monster here was completely out of everyone's expectations. Leng Shiqi, Cui Jing and Xuanhuan stood together and looked at the Zhu crag beast vigilantly. Huiyan men also came over. As for Hong Xiang, after running a few steps, he also noticed something strange behind him. His expression changed several times, but in the end he still shamelessly walked over. This was because he knew that if he ran around in this unfamiliar demonic miasma mountain range, he would die sooner or later. Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. He saw that the silver ground deer actually ran to the Zhu crag beast and jumped around. The Zhu crag beast also let out a low growl. It seemed that the two of them had a good relationship. Leng Shiqi had never seen such a scene before. In his impression, a rank 2 monster should have a natural fear of a rank 3 monster. How could they be so close? However, he didn't have much time to think. A rank 3 monster wasn't something he could deal with. At this moment he already had thoughts of retreating. Using the system map he could at least return the way he came. As for the others he couldn't care less. The silver ground deer circled around the Zhu crag beast and whined a few times. The Zhu crag beast's lamp-sized eyes suddenly stared at Leng Shiqi and the others. Its eyes were filled with ferocity and brutality. "Retreat!" Cui Jing shouted, then turned around and ran. Xuanhuan followed closely behind. She quickly formed a seal and summoned several vines behind her in an attempt to block the Zhu crag beast. The Zhu crag beast immediately charged over like a small mountain. Wherever it passed, whether it was the trees or Xuanhuan's vines, they were all broken in an instant. In a split second, soil flew everywhere and branches fell. Leng Shiqi and the others didn't dare to stay for a moment. They had already used their fastest speed to escape. The Zhu crag beast looked very clumsy, but its speed wasn't slow. Moreover, its ferocious aura affected people's minds. Hong Xiang was already frightened by the silver ground deer. Now that he saw the Zhu crag beast charging over, he was scared out of his wits. Seeing that the Zhu crag beast was about to catch up, he hurriedly shouted, "Senior Martial Brother Huiyan, save me." At this moment, the sluggishness in Huiyan Men's eyes and the wooden expression on his face quickly faded away, revealing a pair of eyes that were radiating with radiance. He said with a bit of displeasure, "Humph, you caused me to unseal myself. I'll settle this score when we get back." Following which, Huiyan Men lightly punched out. This punch clearly didn't have any moves, nor did it have any spiritual light. However, when he punched out, it was as if he had punched through the air, emitting a deafening sonic boom. An invisible fist force exploded on the red crag beast's body, causing it to pause slightly, but that was all. Then the red crag beast continued to charge forward unscathed. However, this slight pause bought Hong Xiang precious time, and he took the opportunity to distance himself from the red crag beast. Leng Shiqi ran the furthest with his great perfection realm floating feather steps. When he saw Huiyan Men's punch, he also felt that he had made a mistake. He didn't know what level of spiritual skill that punch was, but Leng Shiqi keenly felt that it wasn't simple. Huiyan Men wasn't simple either. Just when Hong Xiang thought that he had escaped, the red crag beast's body began to curl up into a ball. From afar it looked like a round boulder the size of a house. The red crag beast began to roll its body towards them, and its speed was getting faster and faster. Leng Shiqi and the others could only scatter and run in this situation. Whether it was intentional or not, the red crag beast's target was Hong Xiang. Rumble. As the red crag beast rolled over, all the trees were blown away. Even though Hong Xiang used all his strength and raised his speed to the limit, he still couldn't outrun the red crag beast. Hong Xiang could only call for help again, "Save me, save me." However, even his senior martial brother Huiyan Men wasn't moved. He fled in another direction, and Leng Shiqi and the others wouldn't save him. In the eyes of Cui Jing and Xuanhuan, Hong Xiang deserved to die. If he hadn't made a fuss and startled the silver ground deer, they would have already captured it and prepared to return. They wouldn't have encountered a rank 3 demonic beast and could only flee in a sorry state. With a loud bang, the red crag beast slammed into Hong Xiang. Hong Xiang was just a mortal. How could he compare to a rank 3 demonic beast? He was instantly crushed into meat paste, dying without a complete corpse. Seeing this, Leng Shiqi was a little shocked. In front of a rank 3 demonic beast, a spirit cultivator in the middle stage of the spirit transformation realm couldn't even withstand a single blow. Fortunately, he ran quickly. However, when he saw the red crag beast rolling towards him, Leng Shiqi's eyes couldn't help but twitch a few times. He secretly cursed his bad luck, but there was no other way. He could only increase his speed by a bit. After the red crag beast killed Hong Xiang, it turned and rolled towards Leng Shiqi. Even though he had already used the ghost parade and the floating feather spirit steps to the extreme, the distance between the two was still slowly closing. Just as Leng Shiqi was thinking about whether or not to drill into the ground, he suddenly heard the sound of a demonic beast in front of him. His expression finally changed. There was a red crag beast behind him, and now there was a demonic beast in front of him. He felt that he was really unlucky. However, just as he was about to use the hand of the earth to drill into the ground, he suddenly realized that there were no demonic beasts in front of him, but 6 people. The 6 people were all wearing green and blue robes and looked to be in their 20s. They were standing right in front of Leng Shiqi. The person in the lead had a dignified appearance and an imposing appearance. He didn't hide his spirit pulse realm cultivation. A spirit pulse realm cultivator in his 20s. As for the other 5 people, they were all at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. At this moment, Leng Shiqi saw the person in the lead open his mouth and let out a demonic roar. So the demonic roar just now was from him. In the boundless world, all kinds of cultivation methods and spirit techniques could exist. Leng Shiqi wasn't too surprised by this. He was surprised that even if the other party was at the spirit pulse realm, they might not be able to stop the red crag beast. However, something surprising happened. The red crag beast that was chasing after Leng Shiqi suddenly stopped and returned to its original appearance. It then opened its mouth and let out a ka-ka roar. The spirit pulse realm young man and the red crag beast stood there and started chatting. Leng Shiqi looked at this amazing scene and thought, being able to communicate with demonic beasts isn't a powerful ability, but being able to calm down a rank 3 demonic beast is really powerful. They should be disciples of some large sect. After the man and beast chatted for a while, the red crag beast turned around and slowly walked away. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Leng Shiqi would never have believed such a bizarre thing. The spirit pulse realm cultivator who was communicating with the demonic beast walked over and said, "I am Si Kong Shou, a disciple of the Imperial Beast House. Senior, are you all right?" Chapter 193. Leng Shiqi was startled for half a breath before replying in a hoarse voice, "Thank you for saving my life. This old man is very grateful." The reason he was startled was because he remembered what kind of sect the Imperial Beast Camp was. It had a bit of a relationship with the Bloodcloth Pavilion. The Imperial Beast Camp was one of the top 7 sects in the world, along with the Bloodcloth Pavilion. The top 7 sects were the Vitality Valley, the Sky Amplification Palace, the Bloodcloth Pavilion, the Great Sound Bar, the Mechanical City, the Imperial Beast Camp, and the Divine Tempering Peak. The reason why these 7 sects could be ranked among the 7 unique sects was not only because they were strong, but also because each of them had unique skills that could be called the best in the world. For example, the Bloodcloth Pavilion was the strongest assassin force in the Thunderfire dynasty. It could even be said that way on the entire Starfall continent. The disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp could tame beasts. The disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp were brought into the sect from a young age. They were provided with different types of demonic beast cubs according to their aptitude and cultivation. To outsiders they were demonic beasts, but to the people of the Imperial Beast Camp, they were spirit beasts. Not only were they spirit beasts, but the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp had to live with spirit beast cubs since they were young. They cultivated together, played together, and grew up together. He truly treated the spirit beasts as his best friend, or even as his family. That was why communicating with demonic beasts was the most basic ability of the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp. If the Bloodcloth Pavilion was best at assassination, then the Imperial Beast Camp was best at taming beasts. Every disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp had to be treated as 2 people because every disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp had a spirit beast. Spirit beasts were generally stronger than the disciples themselves. Furthermore, they were able to perform some joint attacks and were extremely powerful among those of the same rank. However, Leng Shiqi didn't expect to meet a disciple of a top sect like the Imperial Beast Camp. He saw that Xikong Shou was only in his 20s and had already reached the spirit vein realm. He could be considered a genius among geniuses. However, there was no arrogance on Xikong Shou's face. Instead, he had a gentle temperament. The five behind him were all at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm at such a young age, but they were all very polite. They were not people like Hong Xiang could compare to. This is a true disciple of a top sect. Leng Shiqi nodded. However, he was still a little confused. If he remembered correctly, the Imperial Beast abode should be located near the Wildlands in the far north. Because that place was close to the boorish desolate land, they could enter there to capture some demonic beasts and nurture them. It was said that there were countless demonic beasts in the boorish desolate land, so why would the people of the Imperial Beast abode come to the demonic Miasma mountain range? At this moment, Xikong Shou said, "It's good that Senior is fine. I heard that there are very few rank 3 demonic beasts in the outskirts of the demonic Miasma mountain range. How did Senior encounter the Red Crag beast?" Leng Shiqi knew that the Imperial Beast Camp regarded demonic beasts as their companions, so he naturally could not say that he was here to capture the silver earth deer. Sigh, this old man was also harmed by a scoundrel. In order to escape, I had no choice but to approach the inner area. However, I didn't expect to encounter a third-rank demonic beast. Fortunately, Your Excellency saved my life. I see. Xikong Shou nodded. However, he did not know how much he believed. He continued to ask, "Senior, do you know if there are any abnormalities in the demonic Miasma mountain range recently?" Abnormalities? Leng Shiqi was confused. He was new here, so he did not know if there were any abnormalities. However, he still thought and said, "Nothing else. If you want to talk about abnormalities, I don't know if encountering a third-rank demonic beast here counts." This old man also heard that third-rank demonic beasts have been appearing more frequently recently. Xikong Shou's eyes flashed with understanding. He said, "Senior, thank you for telling us. We still have some matters to attend to, so we won't disturb Senior. This place is dangerous, so it's better for Senior to leave first. But this old man really can't repay you for saving my life." Leng Shiqi showed a troubled expression. Xikong Shou straightened his back and said, "How can we be greedy for rewards? Senior, please don't take it to heart. As expected of a disciple of a large sect. Your bearing is extraordinary. This old man admires you." Leng Shiqi clasped his fist and sighed. Hearing Leng Shiqi's words, a trace of joy appeared on their faces. Then they exchanged a few more pleasantries and left. After walking for a while, Leng Shiqi pondered for a moment. Then he sank into the ground and quietly followed Xikong Shou and the other Imperial Beast abode disciples. At this point, he and Shui Jing were completely separated. Naturally, he could not continue with the mission. However, Leng Shiqi's mission to open the map had not been completed yet. He felt that he could follow the system map back to where he came from. With this guarantee, he had other thoughts. Xikong Shou and the other 5 came all the way to the demonic Miasma mountain range for a reason. Moreover, it was their first time here. However, they did not find anyone to lead the way. It was obvious that they had a detailed map. Following them would not only allow him to find out some unknown information, but he would also be able to open the map. Could be said that he was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Leng Shiqi restrained his aura and kept a distance behind Xikong Shou and the others. He did not dare to get too close. For a spirit pulse realm cultivator like Xikong Shou who came from a top force, who knows what kind of strange spirit technique he had. Maybe he could sense his aura. Xikong Shou and the others were moving very fast. It wasn't because they were fast, but because whenever they encountered a beast, those beasts would take the initiative to get out of the way. They didn't need to circle around like Leng Shiqi and the others. It could be said that they were moving in a straight line. Gradually, the surrounding miasma became thicker. Even Leng Shiqi could feel it deep underground. Leng Shiqi followed for a few hours. At this time, Xikong Shou stopped and said in a deep voice, "We will enter the inner region if we continue forward. Let's stop here for today and rest here." The other 5 people took out some supplies from their mustard seed bags and set up a simple tent. One person patrolled outside while the others sat in the tent and chatted. "Senior brother, it has been almost a day and we have not found anything. It seems that we can only find some clues in the inner region." "The inner region is full of danger. With our strength, wouldn't it be too risky to go in?" "That's right. Should we wait for the sect's experts to arrive before going in to explore?" "Then what's the point of us going in first? We are opening the way for the sect. We must go in. Senior brother, you should say something." The 5 spirit transformation realm disciples all had different opinions. It was xianxia who made the decision. Chapter 194. Xianxia pondered for a moment and said, "Our mission is to find clues first. We can't back down. The Blood Beast sect has already sent people here. If we don't go in, we'll be one step behind." Lung Shichi didn't get too close, but he faintly heard the words Blood Beast sect, and his heart trembled again. When he was on Bloodfog Island, he accidentally obtained the Beast Essence demonic technique from Xuanhuan, and Xuanhuan was from the Blood Beast sect. After coming to the Great World, Lung Shichi also specially learned about the Blood Beast sect. The Blood Beast sect was also a top force in the world sect ranking, one of the 6 demonic realms. The Blood Beast sect was a demonic cultivation sect, and their cultivation methods were also related to demonic beasts. However, the difference between the Blood Beast sect and the Imperial Beast sect was that the Blood Beast sect completely studied and refined demonic beasts. Every disciple of the Blood Beast sect could also tame beasts, but they refined demonic beasts into blood beasts. Each blood beast had different characteristics and was very difficult to deal with. It could be said that the Imperial Beast sect and the Blood Beast sect were 2 completely opposite sections. Moreover, their sects were built near the wilderness of the extreme north. The 2 sides had been fighting for hundreds and thousands of years, and they had long been in a situation where only one side would die. Lung Shichi thought to himself, "What's in this demonic miasma mountain range?" It actually attracted people from 2 top sects. However, since it involves the grudge between the Imperial Beast sect and the Blood Beast sect, I'd better not blindly get involved. At this time he already had the intention to retreat. He didn't have much of the map, but it was enough for him. His purpose in coming to the demonic miasma mountain range was to kill demonic beasts and then refine their blood to quickly improve his cultivation. He didn't want to get involved in other things. Thinking of this, Lung Shichi quietly retreated. He walked back according to the system map and didn't hide his tracks. Sure enough, not long after, he saw a rank 2 demonic beast. It was a huge spider half the height of a person. The spider's body was pale white, and its 8 sharp limbs left a little bit of ice wherever it went. This was a rank 2 demonic beast, Frost Spider. Lung Shichi instantly activated the spiritual Ruin Beast King's Beast Essence Battle Tattoo, and his body rapidly grew. He pulled out his unadorned jade sword. The blade of the sword shone with a gentle jade light, but this light hid endless killing intent. Lung Shichi's feet moved, and his sword stabbed out from behind. The frost spider suddenly turned around, its 4 bloody eyes glaring angrily. Then it opened its hideous mouth and spat out a sticky white substance. Lung Shichi didn't dare to meet the attack head-on. He used floating feather steps, and easily dodged the attack. Soon after, Lung Shichi's jade sword shook and instantly split into 12 phantoms. The 12 phantoms instantly surrounded the flying frost spider. Each of the phantoms unleashed jade-colored sword lights, each of which carried an invisible sword energy. Puff, puff, puff. The sound of swords piercing flesh could be heard. In the blink of an eye, the flying frost spider's 8 legs and 4 eyes were all pierced. There were also 12 rays of sword energy that entered its body. While killing its flesh, it also blocked the flow of spirit energy. The flying frost spider couldn't even support its own body. Its 8 legs went soft and it fell to the ground. With one move, the flying frost spider had been crippled. This move, Dazzling Flowers, was the first technique that Lung Shichi comprehended. It had fused the charging pulse sword chi, cold frost sword chi, and floating feather steps. However, before this, the power of this move had not been fully displayed. Firstly, his opponents were too strong. They were either xuanhuan, a half-step spirit pulse realm cultivator, or they were directly dealing with spirit pulse realm experts. Secondly, because his spirit weapon was only a rank 3 spirit sword, and it was slightly damaged, it was a hindrance to this move. Now, his opponent was a rank 2 monster with the same cultivation as him. He also had a rank 4 unadorned jade sword, so he could fully display the power of Dazzling Flowers. After crippling the flying frost spider in one move, Lung Shichi did not let down his guard. The reason why the flying frost spider was called the flying frost spider was not just because of this ability. After falling to the ground, it brewed a dense cold air in its mouth. Although it could not see, it could still sense Lung Shichi's position. Then the flying frost spider opened its mouth and spat out a huge pillar of cold air. Lung Shichi was no stranger to cold air. His left palm lit up with a faint starlight. Then he pushed his palm forward and released a torrential cold air. Spirit Assault, Path of Frost. The 2 waves of cold air intertwined and collided. Ka-ka sounds could be heard. That was the sound of the cold air condensing into ice and then breaking. The flying frost spider was already heavily injured and did not have enough strength. Gradually, its cold air was pushed back by Leng Shiqi. In the end, the flying frost spider was actually frozen by Leng Shiqi's cold air. Of course, for the flying frost spider, it only needed a little time to break through this ice. However, in this little time, a purple crescent blade aura had already reached it. Bang! The flying frost spider was directly cut in half by the crescent blade aura. Leng Shiqi did not hesitate. He put away his blade and formed a seal. The scattered monster blood gathered and gradually condensed into a ball of blood the size of a fist. Then he dug out the flying frost spider's monster core and sold its corpse to the system for 32 system coins. After that, he removed the Beast Yuan battle rune and quickly left this place. Other than a piece of ice, there was nothing left to prove the flying frost spider's existence. Once upon a time, when Leng Shiqi faced a rank 2 monster, the spiritual ruin beast king, he used all his trump cards and was heavily injured before he managed to kill the spiritual ruin beast king. Now, a rank 2 monster was like a lamb in front of him. He could easily kill it. The more Leng Shiqi experienced the benefits of being powerful, the more he desired to be more powerful. After walking for a while, he burrowed into the ground. First, he took some time to recover his spiritual power. Then he took out the flying frost spider's monster core and pondered. This Yao core was pale white and it felt cold to the touch. Leng Shiqi was pondering whether or not he should fuse with this Yao core. Now, he had the spiritual ruin beast king and the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast yuan battle rune. One increased his strength and the other increased his defense. Both were very useful. After refining the flying frost spider's monster core, it would definitely increase the cold air. This would be very helpful for Leng Shiqi. However, at this stage, Leng Shiqi could only refine 2 beast yuan battle runes at the same time. If he wanted to refine the flying frost spider's monster core, he would have to give up either the spiritual ruin beast king or the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile. Leng Shiqi was a little hesitant. He thought about it and decided to wait and see. Now that he was in the demonic miasma mountain range, there were plenty of rank 2 monsters. Maybe he would encounter a better one. Chapter 195. After that, Leng Shiqi began to hunt rank 2 demonic beasts in the demonic miasma mountain range, refining demonic blood, collecting demonic cores and selling demonic corpses. Could be said that he was like a fish in water. Before coming to the demonic miasma mountain range, he had already refined the saliva essence given to him by Feng Shamo. His cultivation was already at the peak of the 7th level of the spirit transformation realm. In the past 2 days, he had refined demonic blood 3 times in a row and finally broke through to the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm. Now, Leng Shiqi planned to make a trip back to the demon-suppressing city because he didn't have many supplies left. At first, when he came in with Cui Jing and the others, he thought that he would be able to return in 2 or 3 days, so he didn't bring much food. More importantly, he was about to run out of miasma avoidance pills. In the demonic miasma mountain range, you could lack anything but miasma avoidance pills. Because Leng Shiqi's location had always been in the depths of the outer area, there was a lot of miasma, so miasma avoidance pills were consumed very quickly. Therefore Leng Shiqi went back the way he came in. Unexpectedly, when he was only halfway back, he felt a strong wave of spiritual energy coming from nearby. He could vaguely hear the roars of demonic beasts. Someone is fighting with a demonic beast, Leng Shiqi thought to himself. His eyes flashed and he moved in that direction. This kind of thing was very common on the Blood Mist Island. However, before Leng Shiqi could get close, he felt a wave of heat. He looked carefully and saw 6 people fighting with a demonic beast. The demonic beast looked like a lion and a tiger, and its body was covered in a layer of faint blue flames. Leng Shiqi recognized that it was a rank 2 demonic beast, the astral flame beast. What surprised him was that there were 2 familiar faces among the 6 people. It was Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun. Leng Shiqi secretly guessed, could it be that Cui Jing and his wife formed another team? The mission this time is to kill the astral flame beast. However, when Leng Shiqi looked at the others, he was a little confused. The other 4 were relatively young and their cultivation was not high or low. More importantly, when they fought, their hands and feet were tied. Obviously, they did not have any experience in fighting with demonic beasts. With a single glance, it was obvious that the 4 of them were newcomers. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but recall the last time he came with Cui Jing and his wife. Including himself, Huyen Men and Hong Xiang, it was their first time coming to the demonic miasma mountain range. If the first time was a coincidence, could the second time be a coincidence? Or was it that Cui Jing and his wife were willing to help others and specially went to help the newcomers? Impossible. Vaguely, Leng Shiqi had an ominous premonition. He concealed himself and continued to observe. The star flame beast was one of the most powerful rank 2 demonic beasts, and was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. Cui Jing and the other 5 finally killed it after 2 of them were injured. However, just as the star flame beast fell to the ground and died, Xianxia suddenly made her move. She summoned 2 vines and tied the remaining 2 people up. The 2 of them were only at the middle stage of the spirit transformation realm. After the fierce battle with the star flame beast, they had already suffered heavy injuries and did not have much spirit energy left. They did not expect that Xianxia, who was their teammate, would suddenly make a move on them. At the same time that they were trapped, Cui Jing waved his giant axe and chopped down. With a poochie sound, a head flew into the sky. The remaining person was so scared that his face turned pale. He shouted in panic, Don't kill me, I am from the Qin family of Yongping County." When Cui Jing heard this, his face revealed a sinister expression. He said hatefully, "Humph, I am going to kill you people from the sects and aristocratic families." Seeing Cui Jing walking over with a fiendish expression, he knew that he had already used his only trump card against the star flame beast. Now he could only be slaughtered. Thus he closed his eyes in despair. He only regretted that he did not listen to his family's advice and willfully came to the demonic miasma mountain range to prove himself. In the end he died a tragic death. When Leng Shiqi saw this, he finally understood. It seemed that Cui Jing and his wife's real goal was not to hunt demonic beasts, but to use this as an excuse to bring those who had just come to the demonic miasma mountain range. Through the fierce battle with the demonic beasts, they would exhaust and weaken the strength of others. In the end, not only would they be able to harvest the demonic beasts, they would also be able to obtain a considerable amount of ill-gotten wealth. What a good plan. Leng Shiqi coldly snorted in his heart. He could tell that the people that Cui Jing and his wife brought were all from the spirit cultivation sects. This kind of person had very little combat experience, but they had a lot of good things on them. They were really fat sheep. And the reason why they brought him here last time was probably because they felt that he was older, which meant that he would accumulate more wealth. If they had not met the Zhu rock beast last time, Cui Jing and his wife would have made a move on him. However, it was precisely because they met the Zhu rock beast that Cui Jing and his wife were able to escape with their lives. Leng Shiqi looked at Cui Jing and his wife, his eyes revealing a cold killing intent. Killing these 2 people could be considered as getting rid of evil for the people. Just as he was about to make a move, a deep voice came from behind him. Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked and hurriedly burrowed into the ground. At this moment, the evil youth wearing a black and red robe walked over. He said with a mocking tone, "I heard that you like to kill sect disciples? Well, why don't you try killing me?" Cui Jing's raised axe froze in midair because he could not see the cultivation of the person who spoke. This meant that the other party was definitely an expert of the 4th realm of the Sky Realm. Not only him, there were 6 people behind that person. They were all wearing similar clothes, and all of them were at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm at such a young age. This was obviously a disciple from a large sect. Cui Jing knew that he had kicked an iron plate. He forced out a fake smile and said, "Brothers, you have misunderstood. I am Cui Jing. How should I address you? You are not worthy to know our names." The evil youth said this sentence without any trace of politeness. Then he saw the corpse of the star flame beast on the ground. Then he opened his hand, and the corpse of the star flame beast suddenly beat like a heart. Immediately after, the entire corpse of the star flame beast suddenly exploded. Viscous blood and smelly flesh splattered all over the place. Strangely, these things actually froze in midair. It was as if time had stopped. However, these things immediately began to condense and form a meatball. The meatball began to spin rapidly, and its size also rapidly shrank. In just a few blinks of an eye, the corpse of the star flame beast had been refined into a meatball the size of a head. The evil youth gently waved his hand, and the meatball flew over and was put into his mustard seed bag. This kind of unheard of method shocked Cui Jing and his wife. Leng Shiqi also said in surprise, "Beast Essence Devil Technique? They are from the Blood Beast sect." Chapter 196. The Blood Beast sect's evil youth's move shocked Cui Jing, his wife, and Leng Shiqi. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was even more careful to restrain his aura. He also had the Beast Essence Devil technique. It was said that similar techniques could sense each other. The evil youth looked at Cui Jing and said darkly, "Are you very familiar with the demonic miasma mountain range?" When Cui Jing heard this, he immediately realized that his chance of survival had come. He immediately nodded frantically. The evil youth's gaze turned to Shi Yanjun. Cui Jing's body moved slightly and faintly protected her behind him. He said, "She is my wife. We have been active in the demonic miasma mountain range for almost 10 years. I don't dare to boast, but I know the environment and terrain of the periphery like the back of my hand. If you have any orders, we are willing to serve you like dogs and horses." The evil youth nodded and didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the Qin family disciple who was lucky to survive and asked, "What about you?" The Qin family disciple couldn't help but be stunned for a moment before saying, "I'm not familiar with this place." "Oh, then what's the use of having you?" the evil youth muttered to himself. Then, with a wave of his hand, 5 blood-colored claw shadows suddenly cut through the sky and instantly grabbed that person's throat. The Qin family disciple originally thought that he had escaped a disaster and was grateful to the people from the Blood Beast sect. He didn't expect that he would die in the hands of his savior. The evil youth smiled evilly at Cui Jing and said, "I also like to kill the disciples of sects and aristocratic families." Cui Jing secretly swallowed his saliva and nodded silently. The evil youth continued, "Take us to the border between the periphery and the inner area first." "Yes, please follow me." Cui Jing immediately bowed and led the few people to the depths of the periphery. After the few people walked away, Lung Shiqi appeared. He didn't follow. The appearance of the Blood Beast sect was as Sikong Shou of the Imperial Beast Abode had expected. However, the Imperial Beast Abode had obviously come prepared and had obtained a detailed map. On the other hand, the Blood Beast sect wanted to capture someone as a guide. There must be something fishy about the disciples of 2 top forces appearing here at the same time, but Lung Shiqi didn't have the time to care about other people's business. Besides, he didn't have the ability to do so. However, Lung Shiqi was a little surprised by the demonic young man's behavior. He thought of the 5 demonic cultivators he had met in Boiwanhu's tomb. They were very crazy and extreme. Perhaps this was the reason why devil cultivators were not liked by others. After that, Lung Shiqi walked all the way out of the demon miasma mountain range. If he met any spirit cultivators, he would go around them. If he met any spirit beasts, he would kill them with lightning speed. When he walked out of the mountain range, there were already 2 more balls of spirit beast. After returning to the city, Lung Shiqi replenished himself with a large amount of food and miasma-repellent pills as quickly as possible. However, he was not in a hurry to go back because he knew that he had to rest and relax during cultivation. Although these 2 days hadn't been long, he had killed several rank 2 demonic beasts and refined their demonic blood to break through to the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm. Right now he needed to stabilize himself. At this time, Lung Shiqi wandered the streets. Looking at one shop after another, he came up with a plan. He remembered that when he was in Xiangyang City, he used the system's unlimited skill points to learn 2 rank 2 spirit skills for free. Xiangyang City was only a small city and did not even have a single rank 3 spirit skill. However, Demon Suppressing Town was completely different. Not to mention other things, just the size of the city was equivalent to 10 Xiangyang cities. Not to mention, everyone here was a spirit cultivator. Spirit cultivator shops were everywhere. There would definitely be rank 3 spirit skills. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi turned into a nearby shop. After a while, Lung Shiqi walked out expressionlessly. As expected, this shop did indeed have rank 3 spirit skills and there were quite a few of them. Unfortunately, the shop only gave him a brief introduction and a few essentials of the spirit skills. They did not take out the real ones, so he returned empty-handed. Of course, this was also within Lung Shiqi's expectations. He was not too disappointed. Following this, Lung Shiqi continued to walk to the next shop. When the sun set in the west and night fell, Lung Shiqi walked out of the last shop with a tired expression. However, there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. He spent more than half a day visiting all the shops that sold cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. In the end, more than 90% of the shops didn't show him the real deal. Even if he asked for them, they would not let him. Someone had also explained to him that someone had once used a secret technique to record everything they saw in an instant. That was why they couldn't show the real copy of any cultivation method or spiritual technique that was sold to customers. This was the case for most shops. However, there were always some that slipped through the net for Lung Shiqi. Those were the more remote shops. For example, the small shop behind Leng Shiqi was located in the most remote corner of demon-suppressing town. Usually there were very few customers who could come here. When Leng Shiqi asked to see the real spirit skills, the shop owner hesitated but agreed in the end. In addition to the previous store, Leng Shiqi now had 3 more third-stage spiritual techniques in his repertoire of spiritual techniques. They were the Flying Rain Blade technique, Silver Thread Thousand Brushing Hands, and Fire Symbol technique. The Flying Rain Blade technique was similar to the Extreme Shadow Blade technique that he cultivated before. They were both fast blades. When cultivated to the extreme, the blade force would be as fierce as a torrential rain. Without using the half-moon rapid light slash, he had a good way to defend against enemies. The Silver Thread Thousand Brushing Hands was a special spirit skill. In fact, it was more suitable for female spirit cultivators to cultivate. When this spirit skill was cultivated to perfection, the attack would be like thousands of silver threads. It was a spirit skill that used softness to conquer strength. As for the Fire Symbol technique, it was a very rare rank 3 spirit skill. Furthermore, it was a purely offensive spirit skill. It was just that this spirit skill could not be cultivated by normal spirit transformation realm spirit cultivators. Only those in the spirit pulse realm could fully grasp it. Leng Shiqi was very satisfied that he had earned 3 rank 3 spirit skills for free. Then, he casually found an inn to stay in and cultivated all 3 of his spiritual skills to the Great Circle realm. At noon the next day, Leng Shiqi packed up and left the inn, preparing to enter the demonic miasma mountain range again. However, when he arrived at the entrance of the inn, he saw a small group of people running over in a panic. Each of them was carrying a seriously injured person. They were probably going to seek help. The people beside him were also surprised and said, Isn't that the Green Shadow Squad? That's a slightly famous team. Why does it seem like they suffered heavy losses? I also just came back from the demonic miasma mountain range. You don't believe me, there were a few rank 3 spirit beasts in the outer area. I almost didn't make it back. Leng Shiqi's footsteps paused and he couldn't help but frown. Chapter 197. The people of the Blood Beast sect had just entered the demonic miasma mountain range, and then something like this happened. Leng Shiqi felt that this had something to do with the people of the Blood Beast sect and the Imperial Beast camp. However, although there were a few more rank 3 monsters in the periphery and it had become even more dangerous, Leng Shiqi still resolutely walked towards the entrance of the mountain range. He still remembered his purpose in coming to the demonic miasma mountain range, which was to hunt rank 2 monsters and refine their blood. He felt that as long as he didn't go deep into the mountain range, there shouldn't be any problems hunting monsters in the periphery. Moreover, he had the Byakugan so he could observe the movements in the surroundings. He wasn't afraid of suddenly bumping into a rank 3 monster. When he arrived at the large square near the city gate, he found that there were significantly fewer people setting up stalls here. Moreover, there were many injured people entering the city. There was a faint tension in the air. Leng Shiqi was one of the few people who went against the flow. After entering the mountain range, he followed the familiar route on the system map. However, he didn't walk long before he encountered a rank 2 monster, which surprised him a little. Because this place was too close to the demon-suppressing city, it was reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any monsters here. However, Leng Shiqi didn't kill this monster. There were other spirit cultivators nearby. Some were coming in and some were going out. If he made too much noise, it would definitely attract others. He didn't want to expose his demonic beast essence technique. Therefore, he could only go around the monster and continue to walk inside. The more he walked, the more he found that he encountered monsters. There were many more monsters here than 2 days ago. He didn't know what caused it and he didn't want to know. He only knew that his chance had come. Now that there were hardly any people around, he began his journey of hunting demonic beasts. Leng Shiqi, who was at the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm, was even stronger. His speed of killing monsters was even faster. In one day he had killed a total of 4 rank 2 monsters. Moreover, each of them was killed with lightning speed. If this spread out, no one would believe it. One must know that usually, the demon hunters would only be able to kill a rank 2 demon beast by combining the strength of several people and using all of their means. If one wanted to hunt a rank 2 demonic beast alone, one would need to be a disciple of a large sect who was half a step into the spiritual pulse realm or a spiritual pulse realm expert. Of course, Leng Shiqi had never been so arrogant as to compare himself to a spirit pulse realm cultivator. It was just that the few moves he had comprehended were all very powerful, but he could only use these few moves over and over again. If he really fought with a spirit pulse stage cultivator, he could just hand over his 3 axes and think about how to escape. At night, the demonic miasma mountain range was even more dangerous. How to safely spend the night in the mountain range was the biggest headache for everyone who entered. But for Leng Shiqi it was very simple. He found a relatively secluded place, directly sank deep into the ground and opened up a small space, enough for him to spend the night peacefully. On this night, Leng Shiqi was refining a ball of demonic beast blood when he suddenly felt a faint fluctuation of spirit energy enter his body. Leng Shiqi frowned, but his heart was slightly shocked. He was currently deep underground, but the fluctuation of spirit energy was able to reach here. It could be imagined how strong it was. However, he did not stop and continued to refine the demonic beast blood, turning it into his own spirit energy. After a while, he finally completely refined the ball of demonic beast blood, but he was not very satisfied with the result. Perhaps it was because his cultivation was higher, but after refining a ball of rank 2 demonic beast blood, his spirit energy did not increase by much. At this rate, he would need to refine dozens of balls of demonic beast blood to reach the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. There was no lack of demonic beasts in the demonic miasma mountain range, so Leng Shiqi was not worried about not having enough demonic beast blood. What he was most worried about was time in the future. After all, the spirit energy obtained from refining demonic beast blood was not pure, so he needed to slowly refine it. He could only refine demonic beast blood once a day at most. At this rate, it would take him at least a month to break through to the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. Although this was already a very shocking progress, it was still too slow for Leng Shiqi. If this continued, how long would it take for him to reach the peak of the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm? Even if he reached the peak of the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, there was still a huge bottleneck waiting for him. How would he break through? It has to be said that countless people were unable to break through that barrier their entire lives, so Leng Shiqi couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. Half a year was still too short. However, this was already the fastest method Leng Shiqi could think of. There was another unstable method, and that was the lottery. The last time Leng Shiqi drew a lottery, it was to assassinate Chu Xinhuan. Since then he had been restraining himself. Even though he had plundered the resources of the Qingkou Hall and hunted demonic beasts over the past few days and had more than 900 system coins, he did not draw a lottery. This was because drawing a lottery was addictive and torturous. Instead of drawing a lottery with a little bit of system coins, it was better to save up and draw 10 times in a row. It was said that the probability would be higher. It's only been a few days. Let's wait a bit more. Maybe there will be a turn for the better in the future. If it really doesn't work, I'll draw a lottery. Leng Shiqi thought to himself. Then he planned to refine his spirit energy. However, at this moment, an even more violent spirit energy fluctuation came from above his head. Even the ground shook a few times. Leng Shiqi's expression became serious. To be able to cause this kind of fluctuation, it had to be an expert at the 4th level of the sky realm. He immediately opened his supercilious eyes and looked up. In his field of vision, dozens of spirit energy balls of different sizes suddenly appeared. Half of them were humans and the other half were beasts. The strange thing was that this was not a spirit cultivator fighting a demonic beast, but a human fighting another human, a beast fighting another beast. Among them, there were undoubtedly 4 spirit energies that were the most powerful, and they all had the enormous spirit energy of the spirit pulse realm. Seeing this, Leng Shiqi suddenly thought of a possibility. This is a fight between the people of the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect. However, haven't they already entered the inner region? Why are they fighting here? Although Leng Shiqi was shocked, he did not dare to show his head at this time. He even stayed a little further away and silently observed from the edge of the supercilious eye's field of vision. The Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect were both top forces that were proficient in the art of controlling beasts. The strength of the disciples of both sides was also on par, but the Blood Beast sect had one more spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm than the Imperial Beast Camp. If it was a fight between ordinary sects, one more spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm would not affect the overall situation. However, this was the Blood Beast sect. This was not only a spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm, but also a second-rank blood beast. The situation was not good for the Imperial Beast Camp. At this time, Leng Shiqi accidentally discovered that there was a dying demonic beast lying next to their fighting range. Moreover, the aura of the demonic beast was very familiar to Leng Shiqi. It was the Red Crag Beast. Chapter 198. Lung Shiqi noticed that the red crag beast was breathing out more than it was inhaling, and a bold idea suddenly popped up in his mind. Since the blood of a rank 2 monster did not increase his spiritual power by much, what about a rank 3 monster? Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi's heart suddenly became excited. Not only that, but the corpse of a rank 3 monster was also worth a lot of system coins, and Lung Shiqi valued the monster core of the red crag beast the most. The 2 beast essence battle patterns on his body were both from rank 2 monsters, which had already greatly increased his combat power. During this period of time, he also had about 10 rank 2 monster cores in his hands, but he was unwilling to give up the spiritual ruin beast king's beast essence battle pattern for the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile. However, if he had the rank 3 monster core of the red crag beast, then he would not have to worry so much. This red crag beast was clearly a monster with extremely strong defense, and could be used to replace the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle pattern. Just the thought of having the red crag beast's beast essence battle pattern made Lung Shiqi feel an inexplicable excitement. He had decided to do it this time. However, a problem came with it. If he wanted to snatch the red crag beast from the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp and Blood Beast sect, it was undoubtedly like pulling chestnuts out of the fire. He had to think of a foolproof plan. As Lung Shiqi observed their battle, his eyes flickered with a bright light. The safest way he thought of was to quietly take the red crag beast away without anyone noticing. Generally speaking, monsters could not be put into mustard seed bags, unless it was a special spirit beast bag. Spirit beast bags were extremely precious, and only the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp had them. The red crag beast could not be directly put into the system space either, and the system space could only store inanimate objects. So what Lung Shiqi had to do was to kill the dying red crag beast as quickly as possible when no one was paying attention, and then put it into the system space. With a plan, Lung Shiqi began to act. On the ground, the people of the Imperial Beast Camp and Blood Beast sect were fighting fiercely. The scene of the disciples of these 2 factions fighting was really big. There weren't many of them, only 11 people in total. But if there were 11 demonic beasts and 2 of them were third-order demonic beasts, then the situation would be completely different. The destructive power of the 11 demonic beasts could only be described as terrifying. Within a radius of several tens of meters, the plants and trees were sent flying, and the ground was filled with deep craters. It was simply a terrible sight to behold. Such a shocking movement would naturally be noticed by many people, but no one in the surroundings dared to approach. They had already run as far away as possible for fear of being affected. The most intense battle was between Xianxia, who was at the spiritual pulse realm, and the evil youth. Xianxia's hands pointed out repeatedly. His fingers shone with a faint starlight. Every time he pointed out, a starlight would shoot out. Beside him was a Tier 3 giant wolf demonic beast. The giant wolf demonic beast's body also had specks of starlight that reflected off Xianxia's brilliance. As for his opponent, the evil youth, he was not at a disadvantage at all. He had 5 claws, and each of his 10 fingernails were more than 3 inches long. Facing Xianxia's starlight finger force, he waved his arms, sending out blood-colored claw shadows that tore apart the finger force. Beside him, there was also a demonic beast that was fighting with Xianxia's giant wolf demonic beast. However, this demonic beast was very special and was more familiar to Lung Shiqi. That demonic beast did not have any beast skin on its body, revealing its flesh and meridians. It was as if a layer of its skin had been peeled off. However, this demonic beast's body was covered in a dense blood-colored light. To a certain extent, it was actually suppressing Xianxia's giant wolf demonic beast. Xianxia knew that the Blood Beast sect's blood beasts had always been very powerful. He also admitted that his Starry Night Wolf King was a bit weaker than the other party's blood beast. He looked again. In the battle between the Spirit Transformation Realm disciples, they were already lacking 1 person and 1 beast. They were completely at a disadvantage. At this moment, Xianxia said in a deep voice, "Xuanhuan, you and I are only here to find clues about the great demon. Why do we have to fight to the death over a Zhu crag beast?" The evil youth Xuanhuan coldly smiled and said, "What a joke. That Zhu crag beast was originally discovered by us and was heavily injured by us. You people from the Imperial Beast Camp want to take it away as soon as you come and say that the demonic beast is your friend. Don't disgust me. What, now that you can't beat me, you want to leave? Even if I can't kill you, I can still be happy for a few days after injuring you." Hearing this, Xianxia's face became even darker. He said, "Xuanhuan, do you mean that we won't rest until one of us dies? We will not rest until one of us dies. Xuanhuan growled and attacked even more fiercely. As the eldest disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp's younger generation, xianxia was also the first to break through to the Spirit Pulse realm. He also had some pride in his heart. Now that he was being humiliated by Xuanhuan like this, boundless anger surged out from his chest. He put 3 of his fingers together and released a starlight finger that was as thick as an arm. The battle between the two became even more intense. Just as they were fighting until the sky turned dark, 2 muffled sounds suddenly came from the Zhu Crag Beast's body. The Zhu Crag Beast also growled. However, in this battlefield, the roars of demonic beasts and the sounds of weapons and spiritual skills clashing could be heard everywhere. No one noticed this sound. In a situation where no one was aware, 2 waves of inner strength broke into the Zhu Crag Beast's body. However, this Zhu Crag Beast not only had a shocking defense on the outside, even its internal organs were extraordinary. Those 2 waves of inner strength did not cause too much damage to it. Soon after, a strong spiritual energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from under the Zhu Crag Beast's body. A huge cross-shaped brilliance drilled out from the ground and pierced a huge wound on the Zhu Crag Beast's body. This kind of movement finally attracted the attention of a few people nearby. When they turned their heads, they saw a strange, silver-white, muscular man break out from the ground. That muscular man's left hand turned into a pitch-black ghost claw. Demonic chi rose from the ghost claw and a cold wind whistled. It even carried a trace of killing intent. The demonic claw still ruthlessly tore open the red crag beast's wound, tearing off large chunks of flesh and blood. Immediately after, a purple half-moon bloomed in the dark night. However, this half-moon was a blade full of sharpness. The purple crescent sword chi deeply cut into the Zhu Crag Beast's body and strangled its remaining life force. At this moment, the people nearby finally reacted. Especially the disciples of the Imperial Beast Abode. Their original intention was not to kill the Zhu Crag Beast, but to bring it back and nurture it. They immediately gave up on their original opponents and rushed over together. However, just as they approached, more than 10 sharp earth spikes pierced out from the ground. This immediately made them a little flustered. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lung Shiqi withdrew his sword chi and easily pierced the Zhu Crag Beast's flesh. Immediately after, a dozen waves of sword chi burst out and finally extinguished its last trace of life. At the same time, he waved his hand and put the Zhu Crag Beast's corpse into the system space. Immediately after, he exploded with his fastest speed and turned around to escape. Chapter 199. From the moment Lung Shiqi activated the dual beast origin battle patterns to the moment he took the red crag beast's corpse and fled, all of this happened in the span of a few breaths. The Imperial Beast Abode disciples who had caught up immediately shouted, "Who dares to steal our Imperial Beast Abode's spirit beasts?" This voice naturally reached xianxia and Xuanhuan's ears. The 2 of them were in the midst of a fierce battle, and when they heard this, they turned around and saw the silhouette of a silver-white brawny man quickly leaving. They sensed that the person was only at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. Xuanhuan was immediately enraged and roared, "How dare you pull a tooth from the tiger's mouth? I'll tear you apart." Even though xianxia had a high level of cultivation, he was still shocked and angry at this moment. He whistled softly, and the Starry Night Wolf King, who was still fighting fiercely with the blood beasts, retreated from the battlefield and arrived beside xianxia with a few leaps. Xianxia mounted the Starry Night Wolf King and directly turned into a streak of starlight as he chased after the wolf. In a few blinks of an eye, he overtook Xuanhuan. The Starry Night Wolf King could not compare to Xuanhuan's blood beasts in a frontal battle, but its speed was far superior. Lung Shiqi opened his supercilious eyes and immediately noticed xianxia and the Starry Night Wolf King speeding over. Being chased by a Spirit Pulse Realm expert and a rank 3 demonic beast, his heart could not help but rise to his throat. In just a few breaths of time, the distance between them was rapidly shrinking. However, since he dared to do such a thing, he must have made some preparations. 2 small balls of demonic aura appeared in Lung Shiqi's hands, and the demonic aura instantly condensed into 4 flying daggers. He did not even look and directly shot the 4 flying daggers behind him. When xianxia saw the 4 flying daggers, his eyes flashed with contempt and disgust. Because the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast sect had been fighting non-stop, the disciples of the Imperial Beast Abode had always hated demonic cultivators. 4 flying daggers flew over in an instant. Xianxia flicked his finger and a finger force similar to starlight surged out, directly smashing the 4 devil chi flying daggers into pieces. However, the 4 flying daggers did not dissipate after being shattered. Instead, a large amount of black devil chi exploded in the air. The devil chi was not dangerous at all, but it completely enveloped Xianxia and the Starry Night Wolf King, blocking their vision. Of course, Lung Shiqi knew that his devouring light flying dagger would be useless against a Spirit Pulse Realm cultivator and a rank 3 monster beast. Therefore, after throwing out the flying dagger, he released all the devil chi he had gathered and drilled into the ground. After sinking to the ground, Lung Shiqi didn't dare to stop at all. He continued to dive at the fastest speed and observed Xianxia's movements with his supercilious eyes. Xianxia was enveloped by the devil chi. With a wave of his arm, a majestic spiritual power surged out and formed a hurricane around him, blowing away all the devil chi. But at this moment, the silvery muscular man was no longer in his sight. Xianxia's handsome face was as gloomy as water. He patted the Starry Night Wolf King, and the Wolf King immediately jumped to the place where the Lung Shiqi had burrowed into the ground and howled. "And? You're saying that he disappeared here?" Xianxia understood what the Starry Night Wolf King meant, but when he looked around he didn't see anyone. At this moment his eyes flashed. Since there was no one around and he couldn't have gone up to the sky, then he could only have gone underground. The spiritual power in Xianxia's body circulated at the fastest speed. Starlight flashed around his body, illuminating the night sky. He flicked his 10 fingers and 10 rays of starlight shot into the ground. Lung Shiqi sensed the 10 rays of dangerous energy through his supercilious eyes. He quickly moved out of the ground and ran forward. Xianxia's 10 rays of energy shot into the ground, but the rocks under the ground continued to wear down the energy. When the rays of energy reached the place where the Lung Shiqi was, they dissipated. Lung Shiqi was already several feet away and completely avoided the 10 rays of starlight energy. On the ground, Xianxia was still carefully sensing his own energy. However, when he realized that the energy didn't hit anyone, his expression became even uglier. At this moment, Xuanhuan finally arrived. When he saw Xianxia's expression, he knew that he didn't catch up. He immediately mocked, "Oh, the leader of the younger generation of the Imperial Beast Camp can't even catch up to a little spirit transformation realm cultivator. You really live up to your name." No matter how good Xianxia's temper was, he still shouted, "What, do you want to fight again?" Xuanhuan saw that he had completely angered Xianxia and felt extremely carefree. However, since the Zhu Crag beast was already stolen, there was no need for them to continue fighting. After all, they didn't come to the Demon Miasma mountain range to kill each other. They had more important things to do. Although Xuanhuan didn't have the intention to continue fighting, when he thought about how the Zhu Crag beast was stolen right under their noses, he couldn't help but feel angry. However, even Xianxia's Starry Night Wolf King couldn't catch up to that person, so he definitely couldn't. He could only secretly remember the silvery white man's figure. If he met him again in the future, he would definitely make him suffer a fate worse than death. However, he also felt a little strange. He actually felt that the aura of the sturdy man was a little familiar, but he couldn't figure it out for a while. In the end, Xuanhuan and Xianxia exchanged a few words before leaving with their own people. Lung Shiqi, who had stolen the Zhu Crag beast's corpse, had been moving stealthily underground. He only stopped when he had used up more than half of his spirit energy. Along the way, his heart had been beating very fast. He was afraid that the other party had some special method to lock onto his aura or tracks. At this point, he had almost run out of the Demon Miasma mountain range. He knew that the people from the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect were searching for something in the mountain range and wouldn't easily come out. Only then did he feel relieved. However, when he saw the corpse of the Zhu Crag beast in his system backpack, his heart began to burn with passion again. His actions this time could be said to be snatching food from a tiger's mouth. Fortunately, he had a lot of strange methods on him. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so smooth. Lung Shiqi then recovered his spirit energy underground and opened up a room-sized space underground. With a thought, the Zhu Crag beast's rock-like corpse appeared in the space. Lung Shiqi's hands formed a seal, and a thick pillar of blood spurted out from the Zhu Crag beast's wound. After a full 15 minutes, Lung Shiqi's face was covered in sweat. Only then did he condense the Zhu Crag beast's demon blood. He held the ball of demon blood that was so red that it was turning black. Feeling the majestic spirit energy contained in it, he felt a wave of comfort in his heart. After putting away the demon blood, he took out a dagger and dug out the reddish-brown demon core of the Zhu Crag beast. Finally, he sold its corpse to the system for 73 system coins. At this point, the Zhu crag beast had completely disappeared from this world. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.